such an ass about it. Ever thought a feature from the mod was a really good idea? We have Mo Creatures to thank for horses, the piston mod for pistons, and even more. Mojang even wanted to add Optifine to vanilla Minecraft, but the mod creators said no. A few mods features may have been implemented into the main game in the past, but they say that they'll never do it again. I was hoping that they'd add my texture pack. It's beautiful. Bedrock Edition had a texture left in its files for a mob variant that never got used. There are normally 11 variants of cat, but here's a secret one. It's a tamed grey tabby cat, and it's impossible to spawn it in-game. It's unknown why it's unobtainable or why it's only in Bedrock Edition, but if you have a copy of the game, it's somewhere in the code. And speaking of cats, there are plenty of music discs in Minecraft, but one of them was removed. You can get the disc for cats from chests or creepers. But what about Dog? C418 did make a song called Dog, and it used to play after Cat finished playing in a jukebox. It's raining cats and dogs. Also, the monster heard at the end of the 11 disc directly inspired the Warden. Speaking of the Warden, Mojang confirmed they will never add any way for the Warden to break blocks. Even though it digs out of the ground, it won't be able to destroy your defenses. Its sonic boom attack goes through walls anyway. Also, they'll never add a better drop for killing the Warden, so you don't go trying to kill it. The real loot is the friends we made along the way, and the stuff in the chests. Another idea that was almost added and then permanently removed is the stone chest. You find these in ancient cities where you've got to slowly slide the lid off without awakening the Warden. These would make for a cool new chest design, possibly with more space, but Mojang won't be adding anything like that. The same update also almost included glowing Skulk with bright lime and turquoise colours. There was even concept art for a glowing Warden. It was likely a bit too bright for the deep dark. Another underground idea that Mojang banned from being in the game are ghost miners. These were actually considered for being added to the game, but then rejected. The ghosts of previous miners would have been found in caves and led you to diamonds, gold, or even secret loot. Imagine you're alone underground and hear someone mining in a nearby cave, but you're on single player. To be honest, I'm surprised these were even considered in the first place. When you're in a cave and run out of torches, it would be nice to have some kind of light source to carry around, like a miner's hat for example. Well, Mojang confirmed that these are too modern for Minecraft, even though we've already got complicated electric systems and the ability to travel between dimensions. Okay, but what about just lighting up the area around you while holding a torch? They don't seem to like that idea either, even though it's technically already possible through mods. As hard as you may try, there will never be a way to break bedrock. Wait, you already can through a glitch? Well, they also scrapped the idea of having any biomes below bedrock, or the ability to get to the nether by digging through the bedrock ceiling. Instead, they just moved bedrock lower in the caves and cliffs update. I guess that works. You wouldn't expect vines to grow in caves. That's probably why Mojang removed this next block. These are root vines, which would have grown from the top of caves. This texture was left in a snapshot version, and the vines look pretty similar to glowberries, but without the berries, or the glow. When you're digging underground and it's taking a while, it would be great if there were an easier way, like with a mining robot. However, Mojang said these would work better as a mod and not a vanilla feature. So no cute robots, but what about just automatic quarries so you don't have to do as much digging? Mojang's designers confirmed they don't like things being fully automated, even though we can already make automatic sorting systems with hoppers and fully AFK mob farms. Making a working factory in vanilla is possible with farms, no magic required, but you always have to manually craft the output. Even though Mojang rejected it, they still added the auto crafting table to vanilla Minecraft. When Dinnerbone was shown this idea in 2014, he said, "I don't think that suits vanilla," probably for the same reason as the robot. But if that's the case, then why was it in the under review section on the official feedback site? Make your mind up, Mojang. Hopefully Mojang will add these next two removed blocks to the main game. They took automation a step further in the 2023 April Fool's update with the pickaxe block and the place block. The pickaxe block could mine blocks instantly with a redstone signal, even bedrock. The place block takes blocks from the container placed behind it, like a hopper, and places it in front. Definitely some awesome redstone contraptions you could make with those two blocks. They might need a bit more polish first though. This update also had carvable cheese blocks, copper sinks, golden chests, and copper spleeves. Some weird stuff in there, but not as weird as this next April Fool's joke. 1.17's tinted glass blocks were originally an April Fool's joke, where you could change the color of glass but couldn't see through it anymore. This was added and removed even before stained glass existed. Also, hardened glass was added to the Education Edition. This is as blast resistant as endstone and takes 15 seconds to mine with your hand. So many new types. This item is Very Fine. That's its actual name. The Very Fine item was a secret item in an April Fool's version, found in the isolation dimension in an item frame next to this bed. It uses the texture of the side of a grass block. There's no way to craft it, and you can't find it in the creative inventory. It doesn't have much of a use either, so the reason it looks quite like this is a bit of a mystery. mystery. When you walk around in real life, you leave footprints behind. So Mojang were going to make footprints into a feature in Minecraft. You might be thinking that's not an item, but the same update that added the very fine item also had a footprint item found in a chest in the missing dimension. This is a joke referencing the unused particle that uses the same texture and how it's missing from the final game. I'd love to see footprints make a return, but they might leak the locations of a few secret bases. Ants used to be in Minecraft. You're thinking that's a mob, but it was actually a block. It will turn right on white concrete and left on black concrete, changing the color as it goes. The pattern seems random at first, but it will always eventually create a highway. The same April Fool's update also had netherite stairs called Swaggiest Stairs Ever, if you're looking for something a bit more silly. Okay, this one's not really a feature, but it was too funny to leave out. The first ever publicly released version of Minecraft Pocket Edition had these 5 icons left in the files. These 3 are clearly icons for multiplayer, single player, and settings, but then there's just this trash can with giant eyes. Maybe it was for deleting worlds? Either way, I'm terrified. You finished a massive build and want to share it with the world. There's not really an easy way to get a picture standing in front of it, is there? Well, with the camera, this used to be possible. Pocket Edition used to have a camera which looked like an egg in the inventory. You could stand it up and start a timer to take a photo. It was removed in 2016, but re-added as an Education Edition exclusive a few years later. Now, when you take a photo, it goes into a portfolio book, which allows you to export them. Wouldn't it be funny if you could attach balloons to mobs and watch them float away into the air? You can actually do this in the Education Edition. Iron golems and pandas are extra heavy and float up a little more slowly, while foxes and chickens float up pretty fast. You can attach them to fences too, or just hold one in your hand. They're crafted with latex, helium, and a lead. Not to be confused with lead. I'm not Mark Rober, but I know that elephant's toothpaste is a fun science experiment. Mojang even removed it from the Education Edition of Minecraft. They accidentally left the particle texture in the game files labeled elephant toothpaste. It might have looked like this in game, but the item was scrapped before Mojang could even finish making it. Remember the trash can from earlier? Well, there's actually an item called garbage that Mojang only lets you get in the Education Edition. While making one of the many chemical compounds like this, if you make a wrong move and use an invalid recipe, you'll be given a flaming pile of gunpowder. Imagine that happened while crafting something normally. None of these compounds are in the creative menu, so you have to make each one manually every time you need them. You can't get this next item in the creative menu or with commands, even with education features turned on. You can craft glow sticks of all different colors. Using them will shake them, causing them to light up. Similarly, you can make sparklers with magnesium, which hiss and get destroyed when you walk into water. In real life, magnesium burns in air and metals change the color of the flame, so this is actually quite a realistic item. Unfortunately, you can't get it normally. Before real fish mobs were added in the update Aquatic, there were only fish items. One of them got removed by Mojang in this update. It was just called fish and looked like this. This type of fish was first added all the way back in 2010 and could be cooked. The fish was replaced with cod, which makes more sense than having fish and salmon as separate things. Another developer more recently mentioned adding seals and orcas, but nothing has come of this just yet. Notch also mentioned adding hamsters in 2010, but he was only joking. When Notch announced that dragons were coming to Minecraft, he was talking about the Ender Dragon, but also mentioned the slightly less dangerous red dragons, which wouldn't destroy terrain when landing, allowing you to keep it as a pet. Jeb has said he thinks it will be added eventually, but who knows? Instead of flying a dragon, what about driving a car? Yeah, you can tell why Mojang won't add this. It's not unique enough and it's too modern. At least your tires won't get stuck in the mud. When you imagine mud, the first color you think of is probably brown. A lot of people pointed this out when Minecraft Mud was revealed. Mojang will never change it because the art director said the grey color makes it clear where the floor is in the mangrove swamp. Is that the reason? They also tried adding mud baths, but they decided mud should just be solid and not a liquid too, even though Minecraft Earth had mud liquid years before. Earth also had 7 new pig variants, including the muddy pig, which you've probably seen before. But did you know that you could get buckets of mud to get them muddy again if they dry out? But what happens if mud and lava flow into each other? They make dirt instead of cobblestone. That's weird, but the next one makes even less sense. You won't believe this, but Mojang removed Acacia Stairs for one update. When 1.7 released, Acacia Stairs were in the game, but you couldn't craft them because Mojang forgot to add in Acacia planks. This also meant that Acacia and Dark Oak slabs weren't obtainable either. Mojang actually had to remove the grass block at one point. Pocket Edition used to have this grass block that had the side texture on the bottom. It was called Block 253. Block 254 looked like this, which made the crafting table the same color as leaves. Now this may look like a dead bush, but it's not. In the old days, the dead bush had an alternate version called the shrub. These were more similar to ferns as they dropped wheat seeds and were a pixel lower than dead bushes. Another green version was created, and the color changed based based on the biome. Mojang had to remove these glitchy blocks, which also made this a little less confusing. Although Minecraft says it's 90% bug-free, some broken blocks have slipped through the cracks at points. This invisible block here is actually a set of stairs. They weren't very good at being stairs though, because you could walk right through them. Eventually, Mojang removed these phantom stairs and replaced them with upside down stairs. This block looks like oak planks, but it's a bit broken because clicking it drops a button. After placing it again, it looks like this. A Minecraft developer once tweeted out this image, which shows 16 types of colored planks. He asked, would this be of any use to anybody? Even though 80% said yes please, Mojang banned this feature from being in the game. You might think we've already got enough slabs in the game. A good few were removed, however. The first ever slab variant added was removed straight away. Dirt slabs were added so the terrain could be a little smoother, but it didn't work for cliffs, so the feature had to be removed. Coral slabs got shown at Minecon Earth, but Mojang removed those too. The Ethos slab was added in an April Fool's update. They work like TNT and spawn anvils above players. TNT slabs are cool, but even cooler is Super TNT. This was seen in Minecraft Story Mode and was used to craft the Formidibomb. Story Mode also had a few impossible banners, window blocks, and don't forget about the Witherstorm. He's been removed in nearly every update, apart from 1.17, but that doesn't mean he's being added. In fact, he's on the list of things that will never be in Minecraft. Except they don't mention him by name, so I guess we'll never know for sure. Herobrine's never been in the game and never will be. This next one permanently broke entire worlds. Placing one of these would crash the game and render your hard work worthless instantly. You might think it's a normal hopper, but looking from beneath will show that it points in no direction. Luckily, the only way to place this was with the set block command. Though Mojang probably should have tested it thoroughly before risking the worlds of anyone who just wanted to try the new hoppers. So you're walking through a forest minding your own business and then you come across this, a skeleton lying on the ground. Could it be the decaying remains of a previous adventurer, or will it spring into life and attack? This would add a lot to the mystery of a survival world, but was deemed as not a fit for Minecraft. When you get hit by a mob in Minecraft, you lose hearts, so it could be more realistic if you left some blood behind. Mojang won't add bodily fluids like that for obvious reasons. That also means they'll never add pee to the game. I'm glad they're not adding a bladder bar anytime soon, and there are already enough kinds of logs in the game. Something nicer is the Minecraft version of a Christmas reindeer, the Jolly Llama, which Mojang added to Minecraft Earth to celebrate with. This type of llama eats ferns and then jumps around with joy, jingling its bells. When you open a door, it's a little awkward how it opens instantly, right? Well, Mojang wanted to make it possible for doors to turn with a nice smooth animation. These turning doors would have had no windows and been made of oak because that was the only type of door at the time. Mojang removed all references to this version of the door in 1.6, when resource packs were added. Unlike the unique chest animation, opening a barrel only shows a dark circle. Two secret textures for barrels were added. One shows a square hole for the barrel, and the other shows the same square but filled with fish. These were removed but are now in Minecraft Dungeons, where barrels look even cooler. Minecraft Dungeons also has the Squall's Golem, which looks like this. They sit on the ground but charge towards you if the wind blows on them, causing a shockwave with their quick attacks. Another Dungeons illager is the Mountaineer. These have Mountaineer picks which they use for attacks. Even scarier are the two armored versions that you can come across. The Mage illager could cast spells, but was only added into Minecraft Dungeons Arcade, which is really odd. Pink slimes are in Dungeons and stay still and attack from a distance, using purple projectiles. They can't move or jump, but they are still deadly. They aren't the only slimes though. Tropical slimes hold tropical fish inside and are passive at first but can turn hostile when provoked. They can also swim in water and even climb up ladders. When killed, they split into smaller slimes like the normal ones do. This dripped out villager here goes completely unused in that game and never shows up at all. It's called the Quest Giver and probably would have given out quests, but we'll never know for sure as it was cut from the game. There are also more types of piglin in this game, like the Fungus Thrower, which picks up blue nether shrooms and throws them at you. Ender pearls are one of Minecraft's most unique types of item. I mean, they let you teleport in survival. However, there's another dimension that Mojang could give us pearls from. In 2018, a developer called the Raddest Bro mentioned adding nether pearls to the game, but the nether update came and we didn't get them. He didn't say exactly what they were going to do, but they might have been for finding a nether fortress. I guess we'll never know. After you reach the end, Eyes of Ender don't have much of a use other than making ender chests. Throwing the ender eye can fly directly towards the dragon and cause a large blast, like a bed. Mojang say that this doesn't make sense, probably because the ender dragon battle might be a little too easy. I don't think speedrunners would have much of a problem with it. Eyes of Ender could direct you to nearby end cities instead, which would be a genuinely cool feature, but it's too much for the game to process. Beds are some of the most useful blocks in the entire game. I mean, how else are you going to escape the phantoms? But when you're out in the wilderness, a sleeping bag might look better next to your campfire. These could allow you to sleep without forcing you to set your spawn point there, or they could not blow up in the end. However, beds Beds are a unique type of block and Mojang want to keep it that way. Loads of unique blocks were added in the Buzzy Bees update. Something that bees make other than honey that Mojang didn't add is beeswax. They added a texture for a wax block in a snapshot version, but it was removed because it wasn't even meant to be added. Mojang possibly tested it out, but couldn't think of a proper use for it. They should have added it in 1.17 as a crafting ingredient for candles. An early version of the Buzzy Bees update in 2019 had a secret item added to the game. This is crystallized honey. We don't know exactly what this was for, but some people think it would have been a food item. All of the uses got fulfilled by the honeycomb item instead. Any references to crystallized honey were removed less than 2 months later, so this item didn't even last as long as some real honeybees can. 6 armor sets seems like enough, but there was another armor set that got removed. Studded armor was in the game for a few months. It was planned to be a mix of chainmail and leather armor. Also, the original texture comes from the same game as the quiver. Mobs used to have plate armor, which didn't actually do anything apart from make them look slightly different. Boats are great, but what if you could make a stronger type that doesn't break when you crash into things and doesn't burn in lava? This guy doesn't really care that wooden boats burn in lava, so why should Mojang? Since Striders were added, they decided that lava boats are useless. The Obsidian boat was added to an April Fool's update, but this was clearly a joke as it just sank when you tried to place it in water. Mojang have a very strong rule that nothing political will ever be added to the game. Oh no, they can't add L'Manberg. Wow, that L'Manberg reference is old, but not as old as this detail removed from Alex's skin. When they made the skin, there were some glasses in the outer 3D layer. These were made transparent, but the data is actually still in the skin file. Steve used to have 3D hair in Minecraft's InfDev phase too. Glad that one was changed. Also in Minecraft's InfDev phase, Mojang added a texture called Fluff. It looks like a cloud block, and that's sort of what it was. The texture was applied to clouds to add a bit more variation to them. It would be so cool to mine clouds and get this block. Though the developers clearly didn't like how it looked, so textured clouds and cloud blocks won't be coming back. The end dimension is packed full of endstone, but it used to look a lot more like this. The white cobblestone was added before endstone and was called whitestone. Mojang had to remove this and replace it with endstone, which is easier to see and just an inverted version of cobblestone. Shulkers were originally going to camouflage with their surroundings, but this feature was cut as it was too hard for even Mojang to code. You know what I like to look at more than anything else? Myself. Which is why it's a shame that Mojang rejected the idea of adding mirrors. These could have been made out of silver just like in real life, but the developers won't add that as there's already iron instead. Luckily, mirrors are in the RTX version of Minecraft, allowing you to create the illusion of an infinite room. Finally, you can make your diamond collection look a little bit more impressive. Coal, iron, and gold were the first ever ores added, though you were originally going to combine coal and iron to make steel. It would have been used for armor and weapons more powerful than iron. This sort of explains where flint and steel gets its name. It was actually added before flint, back when axes looked like this. Yeah, they really had two sides. Some people have had their unique capes removed by Mojang, like Mike Lee, who suggested the Pigman. The cape was removed because too many people asked for their own unique capes. This developer used to have a Prismarine cape, but it was removed from his account. You used to get this cape by playing a lot of Scrolls, Mojang's other game that's now been shut down. Even more recently, in April 2020, Dinnerbone said that a naked Pigman bodyguard was going to be added, but that the feature got scrapped. Minecraft's biome votes from over the years have teased a bunch of new blocks that got cancelled because not enough people voted for them. Two types of trees that Mojang mentioned were baobab trees in savannas and palm trees in deserts. The Badlands biome would have been given cacti with really cool designs, and tumbleweed blocks which somehow would have rolled. You probably make a few mistakes while building, with some being a little bit too hard to fix. What if you could just undo your failed build and revert to the previous day? Minecraft's already got transporting between 3 alternate dimensions, so time travel is actually reasonable. Not to the game's creators though. An undo button will never be coming to Minecraft, and that includes time travel as well. Signs used to be mobs. Well, sort of. When signs were first added, they looked like this. Pressing B would drop a sign and it would bounce along the ground. This was an early test, as you can see from the message that was printed on every sign. Not much point having signs if you can't write on them. Signs used to have a 15-letter limit, so writing this would cause the letters to hang off the edge. When you place a bell on the ground, it's held by 2 stone poles. These used to be made of planks. Another update secretly added versions of bells with granite, polished granite, and diorite frames, meaning that Mojang may have intended for bells to be craftable using these items. There wasn't even an andesite one, which is really odd. You'd also have a few more design options if lanterns could be attached to walls. Torches go on walls, so why not lanterns? The art directors said this was a conscious design decision. They don't want to replace the iconic torch and want people to come up with creative solutions to this problem. So basically, use other blocks to make it look like that, because Mojang will never let you do it without. Sometimes you want to use wooden planks to build, but they're just not the right color. The ability to dye planks into the right shade or paint them like you would in real life would be cool to have. No update will ever add dyeable or paintable wood because the current limitations are by design, which basically means just make concrete instead. The reason for rejecting this one is that it inhibits creativity. Is it A, removing wooden planks from the game, B, completely changing the way redstone works, or C, a new boss that destroys most of your world? It's actually none of those. The team seem to think that furniture stops people from being creative. It makes some sense. Having to make a chair with stairs and a few signs is a little bit more creative. It's an odd reason, and this is definitely not as comfortable. Minecraft used to have these two textures. They clearly look like a chair and a table, and this is what they could have looked like in 3D. Weirdly, wheat used to look like this if it somehow grew more than it should. Mojang later on banned all furniture from being added to Minecraft. Just like furniture, vertical slabs inhibit natural creativity. Don't tell Mojang about the glitch with walls. Combined slabs would be cool too, but they're also banned. And don't tell Mojang about this glitch at the world border either. Another idea Mojang rejected to sneakily force you to be creative is the crawling button. Crawling was an accidental feature added to fix a bug, where leaving water while swimming would get you stuck in a block. The swimming animation worked just fine, so there won't be a crawling animation. This one block rule had useful side effects, so they decided creative methods of crawling were more fun than pressing a button. It's well known that vertical slabs will also never be added, to make you find creative ways around it. But what about micro blocks? Imagine being able to carve out blocks. You could make your own pumpkin designs. You can make so much furniture. There will never be a way to get half of a slab, or Minecraft's creator says just adding normal slabs was a big mistake. So no small blocks, but when you're building something big, you might want a second pair of hands. What if no one's around to help? The villagers aren't doing much. Builder villagers could sell building materials or even offer their building services in exchange for a probably unfair price. They could even construct defenses during raids to help the battle. The official law from Mojang is that they don't want to build things or do anything but live and let live. They're pretty chill, no builders. Speaking of raids, isn't it a bit weird that you can go to sleep and just continue the battle in the morning as if nothing happened? People have tried suggesting that sleeping should be disabled, but sleeping during raids is going to be left as is. It is odd that all mobs get frozen in time when you fall asleep. It would be cool if they got moved around when waking up. Villagers got an overhaul in 1.14, but they still kinda look the same, and that won't be changing. According to Mojang's list, villagers are genderless. They are neither male nor female. It says right here on the Minecraft suggestions page, please do not suggest players having relationships or making babies with villagers. Yeah, not sure I really wanted to. Just like my crush, Mojang rejected this relationship idea. They also said that villagers won't ever build, follow you, or fight for you, since villagers are pacifists. This next one was actually shown in a trailer for a Minecraft update, but Mojang had to make a statement confirming that this was a mistake and will not be coming to Minecraft. Look, there it is, Bluestone. Yeah, Mojang tricked us all and made us think that Bluestone was coming to the Village and Pillage update. How do you accidentally animate a totally new item texture? We know now that it didn't come in the update, and they've said that they won't be adding an alternate redstone system and will instead continue adding to the readily available red redstone. Villages are all themed around their biome, but pillager outposts look identical no matter where they are. You could have desert pillagers, jungle pillagers, maybe even end pillagers. These were suggested, and the official response from Mojang was, pillagers don't care about biomes though. If that were true, they'd spawn in every biome. Okay, this one wasn't fully rejected, so we might get it one day, but it's just not very likely. Mushroom biomes and islands could have mushroom villages. Currently, they just have their plains biome outfit in mushroom biomes, and houses don't normally spawn there. The designs could be interesting, with village houses on mushrooms or even made out of mushrooms. You'll never find mushrooms that glow in Minecraft either. Mojang said they won't add this new variant because it's too overdone in games. Plus, a mushroom that glows isn't enough of a unique twist for them. What if there were a whole underground biome with big and small mushrooms you can use to make potions that give the glowing effect? But that way won't be added. Using a dispenser to defend your base from mobs is a little weak, so what about a proper turret? Place it down and it could angle itself at monsters and fire arrows right at them. Mojang banned them from being in the game, but they almost got added. The original idea for the Ravager had a ballista on top, which is a giant crossbow. Eventually this became a tiny item and they rejected the turret idea. When Minecraft was first being worked on in 2009, Mojang added in a few items from their older games. One of these was the quiver, which held arrows. You might have been able to hold more than 64 arrows inside, but it made much more sense just to hold the arrows like normal items. Mojang removed the quiver and tried to add it again in 2015, but decided not to. Minecraft Dungeons now has a quiver, so at least it managed to live on. In 2016, the Trendy update brought us loads of futuristic items for April Fool's Day. One of these was the USB charger block. It was crafted with iron, gold, and redstone, but what did it do? It was basically a futuristic clone of the redstone block, as it would output a constant redstone signal and do nothing else. The redstone doesn't even have to go into the top of the block. There's already Minecraft in VR, but there used to be VR in Minecraft. An April Fool's update added reality vision goggles that made signs look like this and added a huge hologram right in front of your eyes. It's a shame they cancelled the HoloLens because we nearly had that in real life. The tech from the future doesn't stop there. We also had a smarter watch that showed the time above the hotbar. That's better than the clock that stayed in the game. This projection kinda makes sense. They didn't like the suggestion that staring at the sun, just like in real life, should give you a blindness effect. The only way to get this effect currently is from the unused Illusioner or from a specific type of suspicious stew. The thirst bar was also rejected, since it would just be too much to manage with the hunger bar as well. You'll also be happy Mojang rejected this idea. When it starts to rain, torches could lose brightness or even burn out. Having to reignite these things over and over again will be such a pain. But more reason to use glowstone or sea lanterns. This feature was in an April Fool's update, and it was genuinely considered 13 years ago, but luckily Mojang came to their senses and it won't ever be in the main game. We all know that torches break in water. This can be both useful and an absolute pain. When it gets annoying, underwater torches could be the solution. They could be, but Mojang restricted them to the Education Edition. They're made with a torch and magnesium. In real life, magnesium and iron oxide create thermite, which burns underwater. So many chemistry facts in one video. You can use sodium to make blue underwater TNT too. Speaking of torches, Mojang also added colored torches to the Education Edition. Blue, red, purple, and green ones are made using metal chlorides. They don't even emit colored light, so they're a bit of a scam. Torches used to burn out after a while for April Fool's 2013. They were going to burn out after the 2010 Halloween update, with lanterns replacing normal torches, but luckily this never happened. Another educational item that Mojang won't give us in the main game is super fertilizer. Using ammonia and phosphorus, make this stuff to produce more flowers in a larger area than bone meal when used on grass. It grows trees and crops instantly when used, instead of after a few uses, like how bone meal used to work, before Mojang made it slightly worse. And finally, this is the chalkboard. In 2016, it was accidentally added to Pocket Edition Alpha while developing Education Edition. This means they used to be obtainable in regular worlds, but can now only be obtained using glitches or inventory editors. There are 3 sizes and can be written on like a giant sign. In the old Education Edition, there were big signs, which were comically wide and looked really funny. Wow, that was a lot. Thank you so much for watching the whole hour. For even more, here's this video about all the secret features hidden in the game.
When something is titled the world's hardest game, it certainly has a lot to live up to. On December 15, 2007, a 16-year-old developer named Stevie Krytoff, who went by the online alias Snubby, released a very special game to his website, snubbyland.com. At the age of 12, he started making short flash games and cartoons, uploading much of his work to both Newgrounds and Snubbyland to share his creative passion with the world. His games were simple and his animations were crude, but there was certainly something special brewing at Snubbyland Creative Media. In late 2007, Snubby spent several months piecing together a project that would be very different from anything that he had created before. He wanted to make a Flash game so difficult that calling it the world's hardest game wouldn't be seen as a joke. The objective was simple. For 30 levels, one needed to maneuver a red square from one green zone to another, dodging the blue, purple, and red enemies while collecting all the yellow coins along the way. Upon death, the player got sent back to either the beginning of the level or the last checkpoint with all collected coins wiped away. The game wasn't too difficult at the start, allowing most people to quickly clear the first few levels, but soon after, players would realize exactly what kind of monster they were up against. By and large, the levels only get harder as the game progresses, and the game must essentially be completed in one sitting, as it does not save people's progress. Closing or reloading the browser tab means starting everything over from the beginning. If someone gave up trying to complete the last level, they would have to slog through the first 29 levels again just to get another shot at it. Upon completing each level, the game taunts the player with a new snarky message, seeking to eat away at their confidence. And as the death counter in the top right creeps higher and higher, the immense frustration felt after failing a level just before the end is only compounded. The game truly pulls no punches. Upon release, it truly may have been the most difficult, but still completable, Flash game ever created. So that raises the question, who was the first player to conquer the world's hardest game? Upon the game's release, Snubbyland was a website of pretty modest size. There were about 50 registered members who had contributed around 1,000 posts to the forums, around 400 of which had come from Snubby himself, and around 250 that had come from somebody named Mexifry895, the website's second most active contributor. He would be the first to leave a comment about the game on the 22nd of December, 1 week after its release, venting his frustration with level 10, a definite choke point that is noticeably harder than all the previous levels. The next day, someone named Ziggy claimed to make it to level 15. Mexifry gave more updates about his progress, and after struggling with level 22, Snubby jumped in to lend a hand.
Just time it right. Move between the boxes. You move at the exact same speed as the enemies, so just wait for the opening and go through.
He got stuck on level 23 for 3 days, and after finally clearing it, he swiftly labeled level 24 as being impossible. It appeared as though the rest of the game was going to be a complete slog, but by comparison, it ended up being pretty smooth sailing. On December 28th, with a final attempt session that lasted about 4 hours and recorded 689 deaths, Mexifry895 became the first victor of the world's hardest game. However, the leaderboard showed that the developer was still quite a bit ahead when it came to skill. Mexifry urged Snubby to post the game on Newgrounds so it could get more attention. The game was a clear hit with the few people that had the opportunity to try it out, and it certainly had the potential to become a smashing success. By March of 2008, the game had around 10 different victors, and somebody named Terrence had managed to complete the game in just 15 deaths, 4 less than Snubby's best. An obvious question began to loom. Was it possible for someone to conquer this titan without dying a single time? On March 21st, the game was published to its sponsoring website, ArmorGames.com, where it was finally accessible to a broader audience. In just 3 days, the game reached 60,000 plays, and it quickly began spreading to other prominent websites like Newgrounds and Addicting Games. By the end of the year, that play count was over 3 million. The game's easy to pick up, but tough as nails nature, was able to swiftly hook countless players who wanted to see how difficult the world's hardest game truly was. However, what happens when you mix a game that 99.9% of players give up trying to beat with a platform that makes it trivially easy to access all of a game's assets and source code? People hacking popular Flash games and slapping them on shady websites wasn't exactly a new concept back in 2008, but there is no question that the world's hardest game had it worse than anything that had come before it. Players were able to vent their frustration with the game's difficulty by skipping to the end of each level completely unharmed. Countless people effortlessly skipped to the end and uploaded a score of 0 deaths to the game's official leaderboard. Indeed, within a week of the game being shared with the general public, the leaderboard was completely ruined. If someone wanted to prove that they got a 0-death completion of the game, they were going to need to get it on video. As I do with pretty much every single one of my videos nowadays, I spent hours searching YouTube to try to find the earliest recordings that I could of full completions of the world's hardest game. To probably nobody's surprise, I found a boatload of early videos claiming to complete the game in 0 deaths, but were just recordings of that weird hacked version with smiley faces drawn on all of the green areas. Gotta love old YouTube. There was a lot of garbage to sift through, but I was able to find what I believe to be the first full playthrough of the game uploaded to YouTube. A 24-death completion performed by somebody named Hatredcopter on August 2nd, 2008. Because of the time limit restrictions that existed on YouTube back in the day, Copter had to speed up their completion to get it uploaded, cranking it to 2 times speed as indicated by the title. However, upon analyzing the video, it became pretty clear that it was actually sped up by a factor of 1.5, making the completion a lot faster than some may have thought. Though Copter hadn't completed the game in the least amount of deaths accurately recorded, they did unintentionally claim the record for the fastest completion with video evidence, a time clocking in at 13 minutes and 13 seconds. The next day, they were able to cut their death's personal best in half, completing the game with just 12. 1 in level 12, 1 in 19, 1 in 23, 1 in 25, 2 in 26, 1 in 28, 2 in 29, and 2 in 30. This run was also sped up 1.5 times, and slowing it back down to the proper speed yields a final time of 12:23, a new world record. Copter's completions of the game were certainly impressive, but it was obvious that there was still some room to improve, both death-wise and time-wise. Thankfully, on October 18, 2008, the game would finally get the completion that it deserved, as someone named Hachiman became the first to record a zero-death completion of the world's hardest game. Surpassing millions of other players, Hachiman had become the master of the world's hardest game, completing the game with 0 deaths, 10 months after its release. If you have ever seen a video of this game on YouTube before, you have almost certainly watched either this playthrough or another one that we will get to shortly, as it currently holds the record for the most viewed video of the game with over 17 million well-deserved views. Hachiman eased into each level with composure, executing mostly predetermined movements with surgical precision without going too overboard. Time was somewhat of the essence, but speed was not the ultimate goal. Keeping that death counter unchanged was all that Hachiman needed to do to qualify the playthrough as perfection. If someone wanted to prove that they were the new champion of the world's hardest game, simply completing the game with 0 deaths was no longer going to cut it. Hachiman's completion just happened to clock in at 8 minutes and 37 seconds. Now, it was time to see how much faster the game could get. In July of 2008, Snubby released the next installment in the World's Hardest Game series, featuring 50 total levels, some new mechanics, a heightened level of difficulty, and music that was composed by none other than the first installment's first victor, Mexafry895. The game is so challenging that, to this day, nobody has managed to complete it in 0 deaths, with the current glitchless world record of 1228 by Daniker still having 7 of them. While both the sequel and the original continued to receive massive amounts of attention going into 2009, it seemed like nobody was able to top Hachiman's record of 837. People may have thought that there wasn't much left to accomplish with the game if the death floor of 0 had already been reached, since people didn't really care about how fast they were completing the game. However, on September 28, 2009, someone named Shiroma would prove everyone wrong, as he uploaded a 0 death completion of the game that clocked in 2 seconds faster than Hachiman's record, 835. Shiroma just started as an average World's Hardest Game player, initially giving up trying to complete the game after struggling immensely. However, he was eventually able to complete the game in 450 deaths, whereafter he started beating it over and over again to see how much better he could get at it. Each level got easier and easier, and eventually, he was able to piece together his own 0 death completion. With no built-in goal left to accomplish, he decided to try speedrunning the game. He found the video of Hachiman's 0 death completion and used it as a reference for how he could more efficiently complete the game. After some practice and attempts, he was eventually able to produce the 835 as his first run. Expectedly, it was very similar to Hachiman's 837. And though they took somewhat different approaches in a lot of the levels, the overall theme of taking extra time to increase the odds of success was readily apparent. The best example of this is probably the long wait at the start of level 23 to get a more favorable cycle on the spinner. By including a timer with the video and labeling the completion as a speedrun in the title, it was clear that Shiroma wanted to fully prioritize how fast he could complete the world's hardest game. He had gotten another 0 death completion and the world record, but he was certainly not yet done with the game. For 2 months, Shiroma sought to improve his approach to each and every level until it was as fast as it could possibly be. Practicing the later levels was arduous, as there was no way for him to navigate to a specific level. If he wanted to get another stab at something, he had to go back to the main menu and play through every single level that came before it. But he didn't let that deter him. He wanted the next world record to be a huge step up, not just another 1 to 2 second improvement. Finally, on November 30th, 2009, he had pieced together the completion that he was looking for. Starting around level 9, the gameplay was noticeably better. Instead of waiting before each rapidly moving obstacle, Shiroma nearly bulldozed through the entire level without slowing down. In level 12, he skipped an entire cycle at the start, eventually equating to a level completion that was nearly twice as fast. At the start of level 14, there was absolutely no waiting. Shiroma just dug right in. In level 17, he saved about 5 seconds by skipping a cycle at the end. And in level 23, he didn't wait for an easier cycle. Shiroma cut the completion time for yet another level in half. The strategy for the end of level 24 was much improved. The inaccuracies in level 26 were cleaned up, level 27 had a much faster approach, the lines taken in level 28 were far more optimal, level 29 was played with absolutely no fear, and level 30 was optimal as always. The final time? 6:41. Shiroma had improved his record by nearly 2 whole minutes. With this run, Shiroma proved that there was nobody else who was even close to his skill level with the game. He cut through each level like butter, performing movements that probably looked impossible to anyone viewing back in 2009. If he quit now, it would almost certainly be years before anybody could hope to topple his record. However, he still had more to do. On December 11th, 2009, Shiroma claimed the next record in his conquest to completely dominate the world's hardest game. Looking at the run, there was not a single facet that could be pointed out as being suboptimal. The new path taken in level 24 was just ridiculous, and all of the strategies used in his 641 had seemingly been executed to perfection. Up to this point, Shiroma was only uploading his runs to the Japanese video sharing site Nico Nico. However, this time, he decided to upload his achievement to YouTube so he could share it with a wider audience, a decision that would eventually pay off. It was a steady performer at first, but after a few years of simmering, the view count just started soaring, reaching over 15 million views and counting. So yes, this is the other highly viewed World's Hardest Game video that was alluded to earlier, nearly matched with Hachiman's 17 million view completion. It's pretty amazing that 2 of the most viewed speedruns ever performed were of a Flash game made by a 16-year-old in his spare time. The internet truly does work in some pretty incredible ways. On a personal note, Shiroma 629 was the very first speedrun I ever remember watching back in the early 2010s, and I recall just sitting there in complete disbelief. This was a game where I was taking hundreds of deaths to get past the first chunk of levels, and this guy was able to complete the whole thing in 6.5 minutes without dying a single time. This is the run that initially built my curiosity when it came to speedrunning, as I learned that the simple Flash games that I enjoyed playing had so much potential just waiting to be unlocked. Without this run, I don't know if I'd be in the same spot in the speedrunning community that I am today. It seemed like Shiroma had finally perfected his craft, but he knew that there was still one level in particular that needed to be improved. The target? Level 18. In all of his previous records, the strategy had always been the same. Clear 3 rows of coins going to the right, clear 1 row going back to the left, and clear the remaining 3 moving right again towards the goal. Even if all of the rows were able to be cleared in 2 trips across the level instead of 3, a final movement to the right would still be required to reach the goal, meaning that the strat couldn't be done any more optimally. However, on January 11th, 2010, he got to show off a brand new method that effectively cut the number of trips down to 1. Being nearly tied with his 629 going into level 18, he left 8 seconds ahead. Shiroma figured out that by buffering up and right at the start of level 19, the player would just not hit any of the enemies, allowing him to complete it without ever slowing down. Combined with slightly more optimal movement in the last 10 levels, Shiroma grew his lead to 12 seconds and scored himself a 617. Now, this had to be it. Second place was 2 minutes and 20 seconds behind him. Each level looked like it had been perfected. What else could possibly be done to push the time any lower? 13 more seconds erased. Shiroma had somehow figured out yet another assortment of new strategies all on his own, each one being some sort of cycle skip. In level 3, instead of waiting after collecting the coin as intended, Shiroma was able to barely maneuver back to the goal in the same cycle, barely dodging the enemies on both the way in and on the way out. In level 17, he figured out that it was barely possible to move ahead of the enemy by buffering down and right at the start of the level, which doesn't equate to any time save because of how the cycles work out later in the level, but does make for a pretty funny swag strat. In level 25, he completely cut out all of the waiting by buffering down at the start and barely squeezing through the spinner a cycle early. Finally, in 27, he figured out that it was possible to reach the goal from the top corner with the bar still in front of it, skipping having to wait for it to move back up. With tighter execution in some of the other levels, Shiroma set a new record of 6:03 on March 31st, 2010. This was finally the run he had been looking for. 2 minutes and 34 seconds ahead of second place, he finally decided to take a rest atop his throne. He had completely dismantled the world's hardest game almost entirely on his own, pushing the game to heights that were inconceivable for many back in 2010. Back then, it seemed obvious that this record was going to stand for a long while. But would it truly be able to stand the test of time? Seven years passed by, and nobody had even come close. It was the real deal. Shiroma's record was truly almost a decade ahead of its time. There were multiple zero-death completions uploaded to YouTube during this span, but in terms of speed, Pazula 709, performed on March 21st, 2017, was the closest anyone had gotten, a run which unfortunately appears to have been lost to time. However, thanks to this passage of time, Pazula had access to the Cool Math version of the game, released in 2013, which had a built-in level selector, allowing him to practice the game much more efficiently than Shiroma ever could. For 2 weeks, Pazula poured in attempts, inching closer to the record. By the 15th of April, he had a 6:10, just 7 seconds away. He got onto a run that started off a bit slower than Shiroma, but after implementing a more optimal route in level 8, he was able to pull a bit ahead. Pazula saved a bit more time after implementing a new death-defying strategy in the middle of level 10. The lead expanded further after he cut straight towards the goal after collecting the last coin in level 16 instead of moving around the enemy. In level 18, Pazula used a slightly different path that was a bit easier but about the same speed. He took a cleaner path through level 24 and had a 4-second lead going into level 26, putting him on pace for the first sub-6 in the game's history. And then the lead was wiped away. Pazula exited the level a second behind. However, he had one final trick up his sleeve. Going through the middle of level 27 was certainly a lot more difficult, but it could cut out a lot of waiting and unnecessary movement up to the coin. Pazula executed the new route almost flawlessly and pulled 2.5 seconds ahead of Shiroma. He matched Shiroma's death-defying movement in level 28 and took a more optimal path in 29, which grew the lead back to 4 seconds. Pazula, once again, had the potential to break what was almost certainly the game's final minute barrier. All he had to do was hug the wall to the finish. Staring death in the face, he decided not to risk it and moved around the enemy, claiming a new record of 6 minutes flat. After 2,572 days, Shiroma's record had finally been beaten. Unfortunately, for Pazula, a deathless run and a sub-6 were going to have to wait. After taking a short break, Pazula went back to doing attempts with some new strategies under his belt. He got onto a run that had a strong first 5 levels, but lost around 2 seconds in level 6 from a quick death. However, he pulled right back to even after implementing a new approach in level 7. But hold on, how is he able to just phase through the enemies while moving around at the bottom of the level? If you've ever played this game before, you may know about a weird glitch in level 7 where you can seemingly stay invincible if you just stay at the same Y level that the game starts you out at. If you move up or down even a little bit, the enemies can hit you once again. You still have to collect the coins, meaning that you can't just cheese the entire level by holding down the right button, but it is still a pretty fun thing to mess around with. The position Pazula gets to by tapping up once from the bottom of the level just so happens to be another one of these seemingly random invincibility runs. So here's the flaw with the game's collision detection that allows this to happen. The player has 5 hit detection points arranged in a cross pattern, 1 in the middle of each edge and 1 in the center, while the coin collision is determined with a simple bounding box check. For the game to count an interaction with an enemy as a hit, the enemy must overlap one of these 5 test points. This means that the player can move quite a bit inside an enemy from the corner without taking a hit, while going in from the edge spells instant doom, facets that were likely intended by the developer. However, this system starts to break down because of flaws that exist in Flash Player itself. As it turns out, for a hit to be registered, an enemy must essentially overlap the same one of these 5 points for 2 frames in a row, a phenomenon that is very similar to how Spike Glitch in Red Ball works. In Flash Player, point-to-pixel checks are judged based on whatever the previously rendered frame was. Let's say we are in a scenario where an enemy moves into the player's right contact point. The game first checks if the point is within the bounding box of the enemy, as this check is orders of magnitude faster than performing a full point-to-pixel check on every single frame regardless of how far apart the player and enemy are. Since the point is inside the bounding box, the game goes ahead and performs the full point-to-pixel check with the enemy. However, because the previously rendered frame still looks like this, the check fails, as no pixels from the rendered enemy are overlapping the point. On the next frame, the enemy moves off of the player's right contact point. The game first performs the bounding box check, but it expectedly fails. Therefore, the game doesn't run the full point-to-pixel check on the previously rendered frame that would have found the 2 to be overlapping. Gotta love those janky built-in Flash Player functions. Essentially, the only zones where an enemy can be lethal are ones where it overlaps itself for 2 consecutive frames. Because the enemies in level 7 are moving so fast, the regions of enemy overlap are small, meaning that as long as all 5 of the character's collision points are not in these areas, it cannot be hit. Unfortunately, because of how unusual this looked and how ubiquitous no-clip completions of the game were on YouTube, Pazula had plenty of people in the comments calling him a hacker and a cheater, a trend that, unfortunately, would not die out with this video. Pazula got a bit behind going into level 20, but he had fortunately figured out a way to save a boatload of time in the level. After collecting the first coin, it was just barely possible to squeeze behind this enemy without waiting for the next cycle, leading to about 7 seconds of time save, mostly thanks to the cycles later in the level lining up more favorably as a result. Going into level 20, Pazula was easily on pace for a sub 6. He maintained the same 5.5 second lead going into level 26, and after completing the level without dying, he was now over 10 seconds ahead. This run was on pace to skip an entire 10-second barrier, having the potential for a 549. Unfortunately, in level 28, disaster struck. One death right at the start, and 1 death in the middle of the second section. That lead shrunk to just 4.4 seconds. Thankfully, the rest of the run was smooth sailing, and Pazula slipped under the last enemy in level 30 to claim a new record of 5 minutes and 55 seconds, the first sub 6 in the game's history. Pazula decided to take yet another break after attaining this milestone, but that didn't mean the game as a whole was cooling off. competition on the leaderboard was stronger than ever, as Pazula had inspired runners like HS Blue to push their times lower and lower. Finally, on February 28, 2018, Pazula came back with a 546, with almost all of the time save coming from him cleaning up all 3 of his deaths. Indeed, Pazula had finally managed to complete his first ever deathless run of the game. Like had been the case with Shiroma's 603, there was once again a run in first place that was nearly perfect for all of the strategies known at the time, with him only lacking the enemy weave in level 10 that he had pulled off in his 6 flat. This one had the potential to stand for quite a while. However, third place runner HS Blue would soon discover something that could blow the game wide open once again. On March 7th, HS Blue uploaded a new PB of 615 that had a pretty strange anomaly in level 17. He was able to partially clip into this wall while moving down towards the exit. So how on earth does that work? Essentially, the game uses the same edge points to check for collisions with walls that it does to check for collisions with enemies. Expectedly, this means that it's possible to clip slightly into the corner of each wall, since none of the collision points are being hit. If the player moves into a position that puts one of the collision points out of bounds, the game will move the player at 3 pixels per frame, the game's normal speed cap for movement, in the opposite direction until it is back in bounds. However, if the player starts holding the direction key opposite this force, they will be able to stay inside the wall, as the 2 opposing 3 pixel per frame velocities will cancel out. This is exactly what happened in HS Blue's run. On this frame, he was holding down and left, which caused him to clip slightly inside of the wall, and on this frame, he switched from holding left to holding right, allowing him to stay inside of it as he moved down. In this scenario, this maneuver was frame perfect, though he had done it by complete accident, and it didn't really accomplish anything. However, the implications of this unusual mechanic soon became obvious. On August 22nd, HS Blue was able to implement wall clipping in a useful fashion, as he claimed a perfect level 1 time of 3.867 seconds, a run which has now been tied by 21 other people. In the run, HS Blue first clips into this corner by holding down and right, frame perfectly releases the down button to stay inside the wall, and then frame perfectly hits the up button to keep the player inside the wall while moving to the right. On this frame, the player moves 3 pixels to the right as usual, but now also moves up 3 pixels, as the top collision point is no longer being activated. The game then detects that the player's left collision point is touching a wall, so it moves the player 3 pixels towards the right to force it out. Because of wall clipping, HS Blue moves 3 pixels up and 6 pixels to the right in a single frame, double the game's intended speed cap, which, in this instance, saves a single frame from 2 frame-perfect inputs. Alright, so wall clipping wasn't exactly a revolutionary new strategy yet, but with enough time to simmer, there was hope that someone would actually figure out how to save some decent time with it. However, while people were still searching for more applications for this new technique, Pazula decided to come back and completely shock the community. August 28th, 2018. Pazula streams world record attempts of the world's hardest game to a large audience of 0 viewers. His splits show that his current PB is a 531, 15 seconds faster than his leaderboard world record. Though he never decided to upload the run, he is laser focused on his mission of completing the game in less than 5 minutes and 30 seconds. He is playing a version of the game that he has modified to include an in-game timer for each level and the whole run. With built-in timing, resetting, and level navigation functionality, this mod has been instrumental in helping him discover and practice the multitude of new strategies that he is seeking to implement. In level 3, he uses a position-based setup to save a single frame. In level 5, he does more moving and less waiting, as he allows one of the enemies to clip him on the corner. He hits a much faster cycle while collecting the last coin in level 7. And in level 10, he hits all 3 possible weaves. He sneaks under this enemy elevator in level 12 to save a bit of waiting. He bulldozes through level 13 without stopping a single time. He takes a significantly faster route in level 16 that involves a death-defying third coin grab to save a hefty chunk of time. He collects all of the coins in the first 2/3 of level 18 without stopping a single time, swiftly passing through the enemies as they move up and down. He cuts through these enemies in level 22 without stopping and completes level 24 without letting go of the right key until the very end, utilizing a new route that he discovered. He goes to the right first in level 26, which makes the cycles line up better for the rest of the level. The best possible time is 5:28. All he needs to do is complete the last 4 levels without dying, just like he has done countless times before. .529. There it was. Shiroma 629, the most influential World's Hardest Game speedrun ever performed, had just been toppled by over a minute. Again, the game had a world record where almost every single detail went exactly according to plan. The video received a good amount of traction, and many viewers and fellow runners offered their congratulations in the comments. However, there was also expectedly a tsunami of detractors that instantly called the run cheated once they saw Pazula getting hit by the enemies in level 7 without dying. I guess some people just aren't able to fathom that a Flash game programmed by a 16-year-old back in 2007 may not have every single bolt tightened to spec. Regardless, this impressive show of dominance placed Pazula 31 seconds ahead of second place, meaning that this one certainly had the chance to stand for a while. However, it didn't end up staying on top for as long as most people may have expected, as a new runner named Aaron would quickly make himself known. Joining the community in September of 2018 with a YouTube channel called The IL Guy Runs, Aaron made his first mark with, well, individual level speedruns. He beat or tied the world record in every level aside from 3, 18, and 30, a very impressive feat. However, on November 18th, 2018, he dropped something even more substantial, a second place full game personal best of 546. The IL Guy was no longer just the IL Guy. He was now the full game guy as well. Aaron kept grinding, improving his PB to a 539, then a 538, then a 530, and finally a new world record of 526. In the run, Aaron took the other available path in level 9 because it turned out that it was actually slightly faster. In level 18, he used Pazula's no-stop strategy the whole way through, and in level 21, he maneuvered around the enemies after collecting the third coin instead of getting sandwiched in between them. He used a faster return route in level 27, and he pulled off a frame-perfect collision cheese in level 29 to squeeze through these enemies early. He didn't do the quick exit in level 7 or the risky third coin grab in level 16, but all of the other crazy stuff that he implemented allowed him to beat Pazula's monumental record by 3 seconds. It's worth reiterating that essentially none of these strategies could have been found and perfected without the help of Pazula's speedrun mod. Back when Shiroma pulled off his 603, the game didn't even have a level selector. It was pretty much impossible to practice anything outside of just doing runs over and over again. Things had come quite a long way, and Aaron's implementation of this ridiculous strategy in 29 to save a fraction of a second was pretty emblematic of that. For over a year now, HS Blue had slowly been climbing up the leaderboard, inching closer and closer to the world record, something that he very much desired. Just when he felt like he could finally chase it down, Aaron leaped into the first place spot. However, he wasn't going to let that deter him. He came back and started setting massive personal bests. First a 545, then a 542, then a 529, then a 527, and then a 526, tying Aaron's record to the second, but actually clocking in just 4 frames slower. Still, this run did have some impressive new tech, namely a double coin grab at the end of level 6 and a much faster cycle in level 8 that required a frame-perfect wall clip to avoid hitting the enemy. Finally, wall clipping had a substantial use in full game runs. HS Blue omitted the third weave in level 10 and took a safer approach in level 16 that didn't lose any time, but he was still very much on pace for a sizable new world record. Unfortunately, disaster struck in level 18, and he had to revert to Pazula's old method of completing the level, which lost him about 3 seconds. Regardless, he pressed on. No matter how long it took him, he was going to keep playing until he got the record outright. Unfortunately for him, that very same day, Aaron moved the goalposts once again. Aaron uploaded a video that began with him resetting at the start of level 1. Yes, he was actually going for the double frame perfect IL wall boost to save a single frame, something which he thankfully hit on the next attempt. He didn't go for the wall clip in level 8 because he couldn't find the right window size to get it to work. Oh, I guess I forgot to mention that every wall clip in the game is dependent on the game's window size. Thanks, Flash. But he did manage to get a corner cut in level 10 to save a cycle, also hitting all 3 of the weaves. In level 12, he got past the final enemy obstacle a cycle early. But in level 30, he sadly missed collecting this coin on his first go, and he got to the end too late to be able to slide under the last enemy. It was as if the ghost of Pazula's 6 flat had come to haunt him. Aaron lost around a second, ending with a 524 instead of a 523. However, since he still improved the record and wasn't on the verge of a milestone, this mistake probably didn't matter that much. HS Blue's attempt counter continued to rack up. There was no time better than the present for him to go for the world record. Aaron would likely continue to push his times further and further, making HS Blue's goal more and more difficult to attain with each improvement. For 4 years, he had been playing the world's hardest game, hoping that one day he could have the record to himself. All he needed to do was match his 526 without messing up level 18, and the title would be his. On May 31st, 2019, he got onto a run that started as planned. He hit the wall clip in 8, but didn't go for the clip or weave in level 10. He didn't do the fast ending for level 12 because there was simply no need. He was still easily on pace without it. He messed up the last coin grab in level 16, but it didn't end up costing him very much. He approached level 18, the same level that had essentially killed his world record chances during his 526. But this time, disaster struck again. He didn't lose a full 3 seconds this time, but his world record prospects had still been flushed down the drain. However, there was still one Hail Mary strategy that could potentially save it: TAS 23.
Did it. 4 years. I've been dreaming of this.
Miraculously, he had done it. It's hard to overstate how much this run meant to HS Blue. He had put so much time and energy towards this grind. He had dreamed about having this record for years, and now he had it. The first sentence of the run description puts it best: if you put your heart and mind to it, you can do anything. Funnily enough, without Aaron's mistake in level 30 of his 524, essentially the last mistake that one can possibly make in a world's hardest game speedrun, HS Blue wouldn't have become the undisputed full second champion of the game with this run. Whether he would have later claimed the record outright or not, I guess we'll never know, but it is funny to look back and see how perfectly the stars aligned for this moment. Indeed, HS Blue seemed to have achieved his end goal with the game, but Aaron certainly had not. Aaron knew that there was still plenty of things he could do to push the record to a new 10-second barrier, 5-1-X. His 524 didn't have the quick exit in level 7, wall clip in 8, task 23, and some other individual level strategies that could potentially be implemented. And, of course, there was that pesky mistake in level 30 that had cost him an entire second. The whole summer passed without anything new, but finally, he managed to piece together something pretty incredible. Levels 1 through 7 started out perfect, but he still couldn't go for the wall clip in 8 because he still couldn't find the right window size to make it work. So what was going on? At this point, pretty much every single World's Hardest Game runner was using the official standalone Adobe Flash Player for their runs, as it was way more convenient, allowed for better performance, and allowed the game to be played at any window size, including full screen. However, Aaron's platform of choice was Internet Explorer. For whatever reason, a web browser that had been discontinued and replaced by Microsoft because of how bad it was, actually ran the game better on his dusty old computer. Aaron's interesting platform of choice made it far more difficult for him to find a window size where 8 wall clip and the other strategies he was going for all worked, so he just decided not to bother with it. Despite this unfortunate handicap, Aaron knew that he could still shatter the game's next 10-second barrier. He pressed on, nailing the wall clip and weaves in level 10. He essentially stayed perfect going into level 23, where he went for the task strat first implemented by HS Blue. He got it. Granted that he didn't mess up level 30, the run was now on pace for a 520 flat, just a bit shy of his goal. However, he had a plan that could just barely nudge it over the edge. He entered level 26 and proceeded to do this on the right side. Another death-defying weave. He was now on pace to break into a new 10-second barrier. All he had to do was clutch the ending. There it was, 519.633. Plenty of geniuses in the YouTube comments completely ignored the pinned message explaining the game's collision mechanics to call it out for being fake. But it was absolutely real. Aaron took a well-deserved break after this run, as it was unlikely that anyone would even get close to challenging his throne. But he still knew in the back of his mind that more could be done. Going into 2020, it became apparent that there were more TAS or IL-only strategies that could potentially be brought over to full game runs. First, there was a wall clip in level 6 to collect the last coin without having to revolve with the spinner, saving over a second. Next, there was a frame-perfect turnaround here in level 7 that allows the player to phase through this enemy, saving around half a second. Additionally, there was a cycle skip in level 12 that required a frame-perfect elevator entry, perfect character alignment to squeeze under these enemies, and absolutely no slowdown for the rest of the level, allowing for a ridiculous 2.5 seconds to be saved. Finally, there was a frame-perfect entry in level 26 where the player can go under the dots at the top right instead of going over them, ultimately saving around a second. Of these 4, Aaron recognized that the strategies in 7 and 26 were the most realistic to implement. And, at last, he had found a way to hit the wall clip in level 8, which meant that he could save an additional 2.5 seconds. If everything went according to plan, a 514 was not out of the question. Now, he just had to piece everything together. What a run. Aside from a somewhat suboptimal level 26, every single thing went exactly according to plan, and the expected potential for these strategies was matched exactly. This run is absolutely one of the greatest Flash game speedruns ever performed. The time and dedication that Aaron has put towards perfecting his craft is truly inspiring, and there is very little chance of this record being beaten anytime soon. He stands in first by over 9 seconds, as HS Blue still sits in a distant second with his 523. As you may have guessed, this run, a true cornerstone of Flash game speedrunning, was performed on Internet Explorer. You really can't make this stuff up. Aaron may come back again, but as it stands, he is the undisputed champion of the world's hardest game. However, it doesn't mean that it's bound to stay that way forever.
I love the song.
So I want to try and ban LOLDID11. Temp ban LOLDID11. One day maybe? Subscribe to the Mr. Epic.
Did you know that one of the most popular Minecraft servers in the world, regularly seeing as high as 10,000 players online daily, is Russian? And did you know that this very same server allows you to buy ranks that give you the power to mute other players, ban other players, and even join the staff team? And this is far from the only Russian server like this.
Krito literally just joined the server, as you can see from the message in chat. I want to try and ban him. Subscribe to the Mr. Epic. And I just banned him. He is gone.
Russian Minecraft servers are utterly insane, from allowing players to access the server's console, reset the entire server for $100, crash players' game with a $1 stick, buy a girlfriend, and even buy the ability to /op yourself. This is something I just had to investigate. Really World is the biggest of the Russian servers, regularly seeing 8,000 to 9,000 players daily, peaking at over 10,000 sometimes. The server is owned by a large Russian YouTuber named Doma Grief, whose videos have some interesting thumbnails to say the least. His channel is really popular in Russia, clearly. Anywho, upon joining the server, you will have to do something I've never seen before, and basically click a link in game which opens up to your web browser, prompting you to respond to a CAPTCHA to prove you are not a bot or something else. Furthermore, this is in fact a cracked server and you have to register with a password. They do seem to have some high security, as you also can't even type in the chat on the server until you've played on it for 30 minutes, so maybe they get bot attacks a lot. Anyways, upon joining the server there seems to be 3 game modes. First of all, there's Griefer Survival, where you will not find creativity and dupe, only the harsh Griefer Survival awaits you here. From what I gather, it just seems to be your normal Minecraft SMP, but you are allowed to grief and kill players. What's crazy though is this isn't just one Minecraft SMP game mode as you would normally see on most servers we know. This is a selection of about 30 Griefer Survival servers, each with 60 to 100 players online. It's like 30 SMPs right here, all with active player bases. Pretty insane. The other server they have is called Mega Vulture Beta, which I think is a mistranslation, and it's meant to be Mega Grief Beta. There's only one of these, and from what I gathered, it's just another version of the Griefer Survival server. And finally, there's Anarchy, the most unpopular mode on the server, which is just a crappy semi-anarchy type server. But yeah, the server is your pretty standard survival server, it's just got over 30 survival servers instead of 1 or 2. And just like your pretty standard survival server, it of course contains crates and ranks. If you go to their store, you can see there are a lot of crates you can buy here, 21 to be exact, for prices ranging from anywhere from $1 to $15, which are totally not suspicious. Some of the crates even give you the chance to win ranks with this cool crate opening animation. What's truly interesting about their store is the ranks though. Here we have the server's 9 listed ranks, the lowest one costing only 40 cents in US dollars by the way. Seems normal, right? Well, if you go to the rank perks page, you'll see that Really World offers its donators some seriously powerful perks, including the ability to mute people in game, temporarily or permanently ban other players, and even buy staff. Now, I genuinely didn't believe this was an actual thing, so I went and bought the Imperator rank, which is the lowest rank with access to the ban command, costing me $17. After having to pay with cryptocurrency because none of the other payment methods they had were supported, I got my rank and hopped on.
So I want to try and ban, I don't know, who should we try and ban? LOL did 11. So temp ban, let's just get this man. Temp ban, LOL did 11. Let's try 1 day maybe. And subscribe to Mr. Epic. Let's just check. LOL did. He's gone. I just generally banned the guy for 1 day for the reason subscribe to the Mr. Epic. And he was a donator as well, mind you. He wasn't even just a random player. I want to try maybe mute someone now. Oh, hang on. What's happened to me now? Did I get banned as well?
So it seems like I got a taste of my own medicine here, although after asking with a member of my Discord named Metask who speaks Russian and is familiar with these servers, he told me I was banned because I gave an invalid ban reason. Apparently, some of the donators can see in chat when you ban someone, and a lot of them do speak English, so when they saw me ban some random donator for the reason, subscribe to the Mr. Epic in English, they probably instantly knew it was a false ban. Apparently, when you ban people, you are meant to actually list rules from the server's official rules as the reason, but I guess I didn't read that part. According to him, if you do ban people for actual reasons, even if it is a false ban, you can often get away with it. Now, of course, you can buy unbans with real money on this server, which means...
Alright, so we're back on Really World. I just bought an unban for $5. There's a lot of people online again. This time there's actually a helper and a YouTuber. I'm gonna try banning someone, but this time for a legitimate reason, which I copy and pasted from the forum. So let's try and find someone again lower ranked. I'm gonna ban them for a legitimate reason. Let's try this guy, 18Co Rolly. Search temp ban, 18Co Rolly. Try 7 days, and this time for some random Russian reason. And I just banned him, and he's gone. I wonder if I'm gonna get banned now. Yeah, no one's doing anything against me. He's gone. Temp ban, Dalka, 7766, 1 day, same reason. Okay, it's on cooldown. But you know what I want to try and do? I want to try and temp mute this guy now. Temp mute, Dalka, 7766. 1 day, I guess. Same reason. Alright, so I think I've just muted this guy. I think I've been banned for 14 days again. This time for a false mute though, so my ban was still fine apparently.
Anyways, besides being able to ban people, the ranks get some kits which give you some decent gear, of which was partially stolen from me, and then gracefully returned, some additional commands, and a lot of homes and vaults. However, my favorite command was the broadcast command, allowing you to send a broadcast message to the entire server network every 5 minutes. Now, unfortunately, most people here probably don't speak English, although the ones that do can ban me, but all of you watching this video do, so be sure to subscribe, no pressure. Anyways, the rank I bought isn't the only one with the permission to ban, nor the most powerful either. The Enigma rank, which I can't find anywhere on the store by the way, not only has the ability to unban players, but also to permanently ban them. That's right, not even a temporary ban, a permanent ban. Luckily for the players though, one of the ranks I could find in the store that you can buy in case an Enigma rank player decides to try to ban you is Helper. Yep, that's right, you can straight up buy the Helper rank for the low price of $75. As a Helper, you have no delays or limits on the mute command, you are immune from administration, meaning you can't be banned or muted by other players, maybe even other staff as well, and you even get to be a part of the project team, gaining access to their group chats. This is pretty funny, you can literally buy staff, and I'm assuming the main reason people do buy staff is so they can't be banned by other players, and can punish them with mutes infinitely. Hilarious stuff. There also seems to exist a more expensive rank than even Helper called Bunny, costing $90 but there aren't perks listed anywhere. If this costs more than Helper, then God knows what it can do. So while I was investigating the server, something interesting happened. Initially things were normal, but once I bought a rank and equipped my gear, players immediately began paying more attention to me. While I was writing this video script, I went AFK on the server, and multiple times I would tab back in only to find myself in the nether on fire and dying. This kept happening to me over and over, and I was so damn confused. Then I realized something. While I was at spawn AFK, I had to turn off sound because people kept trying to fishing rod me for some reason, and it was pissing me off. I kept my main monitor open at one stage and pretended to be AFK, and saw players using fishing rods to pull me into the nether warp, and then when in the nether in a protected area, they would use fishing rods to pull me into fire trying to kill me, or would try to pull me out of the safe zone. Very crafty. Unfortunately for them, the kit I got from donating was too strong and I fought them off. Pretty funny though, I must have been targeted because I had a rank and gear equipped. Normally, cracked Minecraft servers don't get many donators because, well, if the players aren't even willing to buy Minecraft, why would they buy a rank on some random server? But I guess having ranks with the ability to ban and mute makes Really World's ranks much more desirable, as they had hundreds of donators on, and keep in mind there's another 30 game modes which look just like this. They would be making absolute bank. Really World isn't the only shady Russian server though. In fact, compared to other servers, they are actually very good by comparison. Skybars.net is another Russian server which gets around 1500 to 1700 peak players daily, so also pretty big. The server is also cracked and also has a capture you have to do upon joining. After doing the capture, you get thrown into a room where I'm assuming the store and some promo code for a discount are advertised. This server seems to be more minigame based and has Bed Wars and Sky Wars, but also has survival servers. Before we go into a game mode and take a real deep dive on what's going on here, let's check out this banner in the hub. I'll get a translation here so we can see what it's saying. Listed here are some perks the server says you can get from donating. You can get cases to give to friends, which I assume are crates. You can get access to the server console, access to creative mode and flight. You can punish violators, which means you can ban players, as we'll get into later. You will be very happy with the donation and your life will improve. You are more likely to be able to find a partner, a boy or a girl on the server, and the higher the donation, the more chances you have to join the server staff team. So, to recap, just buying a rank on the server, not only will you get access to the server console, creative mode, and the ability to ban players, but your life will also improve, and you'll be more likely to find a girlfriend or boyfriend on the server. This is fantastic. Why can't the pay-to-win servers we have offer such great benefits? I wouldn't even dislike them if they could offer such amazing perks. I think I know which server I'm playing from now on. Screw OG-network.net, I'm switching to skybars.net. In all seriousness though, this is by far the funniest, stupidest, and most manipulative thing I've ever seen on a Minecraft server, period. But it doesn't stop there. Let's go to the server's store. This server has the most ranks and perks I've ever damn seen. You know something's up when the 5th cheapest rank gives you admin and only costs 28 cents. As for the ranks, well, they range from 0.01 cents to $170 and include ranks like owner, op, helper, all rights, I bought a server, troll, console, owner and /op, and another dozen or so ranks until we get to the oligarch rank at the very top. Not only are the ranks utterly insane, but you can buy the ability to be immune from bans, as well as something called the Crash Stick. I found a video on YouTube demonstrating how this works, and I kid you not, you can genuinely buy a stick for real money, which when right-clicked on a player, crashes their game. And I don't mean just being kicked or disconnected from the server, it genuinely crashes the player's game and causes it to freeze and close. This is insane. These Crash Sticks cost as little as just $1 for one as well, and of course you can pay to be immune from them. This server has basically just decided to sell everything they can think of. You can pay to hide the side menu, you can pay for defense against the /kill command, which did I mention you can /kill people with certain ranks? No? You can buy access to jail, buy access to filter out bots from tab and chat, buy access to see invisible players, buy access to remove the delay from all commands. You can completely wipe the entire survival server for $100. Yes, that's right, the entire survival server. You can buy access to other people's private land claim regions, meaning their land claims won't work against you. You can buy access to the server console for only $1.50 amongst so much other insane stuff. There's no way they give you half of this stuff, like console access, for $1.50 as well, as you could literally delete the entire server and ruin the experience for everyone with it. But you know, I just had to try it. Some of the rank perks they were offering were just so insane. These are literally administrator commands, you can ban players' IPs, and virtually anything including editing the server's permissions permissions, and there are commands made just to troll players. What the hell is going on? I have to see this for myself. I decided to buy one of the more expensive ranks, the Master rank, for $15, as it literally had the ability to ban players' IPs. And if you go to buy a rank, you'll see they have a bunch of payment options, including Steam card codes. Yep, you know something's dodgy when it accepts Steam gift card codes. Anywho, I got the rank and hopped on. So first, I wanted to figure out what exactly the console thing was. Would they actually give me access to the server's console as they stated? And no, they don't. They give you a /console command to use in game, which displays the commands people type in game. That's it. So it's false advertising. I did indeed have administrator-like commands though. I could go into creative, I could use world edit, and I could even op myself. But I also lacked a lot of commands which I had in fact paid for. For example, I couldn't use ban IP, I couldn't edit permissions, and some of the troll commands didn't work at all and gave me internal errors. It seemed like most of the commands that I paid for and that my rank was supposed to have weren't even there or were completely BS and didn't work like anybody would have thought. But could I ban players?
Crito literally just joined the server, as you can see from the message in chat. I want to try and ban him. Subscribe to the Mr. Epic. And I just banned him. He is gone. This guy's just joined the server and been banned in basically 10 seconds. Alright, I'm in spectator mode looking for my next victim here. I reckon we just TP to someone. Oh, Cyber Pro YouTube, let's take a look. Oh, he's building like a nice base here. Alright, fair enough. Cyber Pro YouTube, I hate to be the bearer of bad news, but ugly build. Poor bloke, he was just trying to build his whatever the hell this is, and I've just teleported him in spectator mode. He couldn't even see me and banned him. I rate your build a solid 4 out of 10 though. You know what, 5 out of 10. Could have been worse. Could have been worse.
Yes, I could. For 10 minutes only. I think that unlike Really World, Skybars isn't actually a serious server. It's designed to get unknowing kids, or curious YouTubers who don't speak Russian, to spend money on ranks and perks they think are cool and super powerful, but aren't actually when they use them in game. It's a very shady and manipulative way to make money if I do say so myself, and I've never seen a server be more blatant with their lies and still be successful. So maybe these two Russian servers are outliers though, they just happen to be the most popular. Well, no, it seems like Russian servers are almost all like this. Here's another one called TNT Land, which gets upwards of 500 plays daily, where you can once again buy various administrator permissions like the ability to ban players, mute them, unban them, ban their IP, and more. These servers are not just outliers, this seems to be how most Russian servers are. So why do people even play them? Is it because there are no other good options? Is it because they actually enjoy them? Well, I think I'm missing something here. Obviously, I can't speak Russian, so I'm extremely limited in what I can understand, but clearly there's more to these servers than meets the eye, and they seem to function so much differently to the servers we all know, even though they might look the same at face value. Anyways, I hope you enjoyed this bizarre video. Be sure to subscribe for more like it. Thank you all so much for watching.
First released in June of 2010, Happy Wheels has gone on to become one of the most popular and influential Flash games ever created. The platforming adventure-style game with comical ragdoll physics presented players with a unique gameplay experience that had quite a lot of shock and charm. And the ability for users to create and upload their own custom levels gave the game endless possibilities and replay value. By 2013, the game had absolutely taken YouTube by storm, with Let's Play videos uploaded by various gaming channels like PewDiePie and Jacksepticeye reaching upwards of tens of millions of views, driving immense traffic towards the game's hosting website, TotalJerkface.com. Millions of casual players browsed the seemingly never-ending catalog of user-made levels to try them out, with dozens of levels eventually achieving tens of millions of plays, 2 of which even broke the mind-boggling 100 million barrier. Aside from the game's essentially endless amount of content, there was one mechanic that drove many people to find value in playing the same levels over and over again. Upon reaching the flag at the end of any given level, the game presents the user with the exact amount of time that it took to complete it. Moreover, the game gives users the ability to view a replay of their gameplay and even upload it to the game's servers for other people to view on the level's leaderboard. Speedrunning was essentially built into the DNA of Happy Wheels, and many people sought to refine their skills and optimize their gameplay with certain characters and levels to try and achieve the fastest times possible. Unfortunately, this system had a significant drawback. On any popular level, the top replays list is flooded with inaccurate replays that quickly desync when attempting to view them, thanks to minute differences that exist with how different versions of the Web Adobe Flash Player plugin handle floating point values. When playing Happy Wheels, the game checks your operating system, browser, and bit classification of your computer, either 32 or 64, to see if a replay will likely play back properly on your machine. Unfortunately, with Happy Wheels being such an old game, and so many different hardware configurations existing, the in-game leaderboard system has become completely ineffective at properly archiving speedruns. And it is impossible to really tell if a replay has desynced because of some differing hardware, or because the game was tampered with using an external program like Cheat Engine. The problem was only made worse when the game was ported to JavaScript to keep it alive after the death of Flash on the web, as the slight alterations made to the game's physics make every single replay performed before 2021 inaccurate, as they were all performed on the Flash version of the game. Thankfully, a solution to this enormous problem was generated by an external leaderboard hosted on speedrun.com. For any featured level in the game found under the Play tab, people could submit a video recording of their own replay or live completion and have it be verified on a leaderboard where it could be properly preserved and where anybody could view the run as it was actually performed, regardless of what computer hardware they had. Additionally, leaderboards were hosted for all of the official levels in the mobile version of the game, where the only official form of in-game tracking came in the form of horribly inaccurate Game Center leaderboards on the iOS version that had no viewable replays, and where every level was flooded with hundreds of obviously cheated runs at the top. On some levels, there were certain time ceilings put in place that were intended to mitigate this. For example, any runs faster than 19 seconds in level 2-3 are unsubmittable, as the developers thought that getting a run faster than that was completely impossible. However, with speedrun skips, people were actually able to achieve times faster than this limit, turning the Game Center leaderboard into a ridiculous competition to see who could get the closest to that time without going under. While many of the times on the game's speedrun.com leaderboard are certainly impressive, with runners often pouring in hours upon hours of attempts into a single level that is often less than a minute long, usually to shave off mere frames at a time, there is one Happy Wheels speedrun that stands far above the rest for how insanely impressive it is, and how much time and dedication was spent to make it a reality. You see, if you travel to the full game section of the Happy Wheels leaderboard, you will find a few different categories that involve the completion of more than just one level at a time. Of these three main categories, one of them revolves around a certain version of the game that wasn't even hosted on the game's main website. A common tactic for Flash game developers to drive more traffic to their hosting website was to provide a version of the game that external websites were allowed to host. These versions allowed people to play just a portion of the game, with them being given a link to the game's main website if they wanted to experience the full thing. If you've seen some of the other videos on my channel, you are probably familiar with the 5 King.com site-locked bonus levels in Red Balls 1 and 2. This scheme involving a very similar philosophy. Another version of this tactic came in the form of allowing any website to actually host the full game, but it would display ads that would support the original developer, utilized by the later Red Ball games sponsored by Not Doppler. The Happy Wheels demo consists of 9 different levels, each providing a unique sampling of what Happy Wheels has to offer. Some of these levels allow any of the characters to be selected for the completion, while others default to a specific character. As you may have guessed, the demo category requires every single level to be completed with one of the available characters. The levels can be completed in any order, and timing begins upon loading the first level and ends upon reaching the flag platform at the end of the last. While individual level speedruns of Happy Wheels challenge the player to try daring strategies hundreds, if not thousands of times until they finally succeed, the demo category instead challenged players to remain extremely consistent while completing each level back to back, optimizing their movement over a span of several minutes, hopefully without ever dying or making any other large mistakes. Unlike the full game's all featured levels category that required more than 130 levels to be completed over the span of around 4 to 6 hours, the length of the demos seemed just right for allowing players to truly optimize a multi-level category without being overwhelmed by the sheer quantity of levels. The first submitted demo speedrun was performed by a runner named Albigu, with a time clocking in at 5:23. He starts out with Obstacle Course as his first level, possibly since it was the most inconsistent, and he chooses the wheelchair guy as his character, as his rocket booster makes him the fastest choice for this level. Irresponsible Dad does have an exploit where tons of speed and height can be generated by matching the shit out of the left and right buttons, but Wheelchair Guy is still generally the more optimal selection. Albigu performs a small skip in this level where this intended bounce platform is completely avoided thanks to Wheelchair Guy's rocket booster. Albigu performs quick menuing to the next level since it is counted in the final time of the run, and he picks the Wheelchair Guy again for his completion of A Large Satan Eats You. Kind of an odd level concept, but I guess that's what happens when you give people an expansive built-in level editor with seemingly infinite possibilities. Next up is BMX Park 2, where the Irresponsible Dad must be used, and following this is a level called Snowy Mountain Final, where a dismounted Segway guy has to hitch a ride on some kind of zipline system to reach one of the level's 7 ending platforms. Albigu decides to choose the 4th fastest but 2nd safest route, which involves staying on the zipline for around a minute and a half before dropping down to the finish at the very right side of the screen. Subsequently, Dawn of the Dead Level 1 requires the Segway guy to escape a zombie apocalypse through a few buildings, and to hitch a ride on a rope hanging from a helicopter for around 25 seconds, where the ending platform can eventually be dropped onto. Next up, Albigu goes for Trap Track, an obstacle course style level that requires quite a bit of precise movement to avoid dying. Unfortunately, he clipped through one of the springy platforms at the very end of the level, forcing him to start it all over again, costing quite a bit of time. He then moves on to It Keeps Happening, a level where a true speedrunning skip can finally be observed. Normally, the player is supposed to carefully ride down a set of stairs before they are met with a large boost ramp that potentially launches them back to the elevated ending platform near the start of the level, something that is intended to be very inconsistent. However, by leaning back on the Wheelchair Guy, Albigu is able to fly into the air and completely cheese the level, completing it in 7.46 seconds. Finally, there's Rope Swings, a fairly challenging and inconsistent level where the player is intended to dismount the Segway and use the game's crawling mechanics to complete the level. However, Albigu instead backs up, waiting for the rope to swing forward, and he makes a jump that lands on the booster. But he unfortunately botches the later dismount from the Segway. Thankfully, on his second try, he hits the booster and successfully dismounts the Segway at just the right time to fly over the second rope, allowing him to reach the end of the level. But hold on a second. If you look at Albigu's splits, you'll notice that he only completed 8 out of the 9 demo levels. Which level did he leave out, and why? Well, Gut Bus Extreme is a level that was very unfavored by Albigu when he originally pitched the idea for the demo category. You see, the player is supposed to enter the yellow bus by dismounting their vehicle, where they are then tossed around by quite a few obstacles, usually leading to the character dying or the bus stopping far before the finish. Since there was seemingly no way to control the bus, Albigu thought that this complete RNG fest of a level would probably be unfit for the category. He also didn't want it included because it would make a sub 5 time in the category more attainable, which is certainly an interesting rationale. Furthermore, when the category was initially added, a miscommunication led to Gut Bus Extreme being excluded on the basis that it was impossible to complete. However, this was obviously not the case, and in December of that year, a runner named Dre would complete a demo run that did include Gut Bus Extreme, with him utilizing an inventive strategy that made the level far quicker, more consistent, and more skill-dependent. In his first PB of 538, Dre successfully completed Gut Bus Extreme by exiting the starting container with Wheelchair Guy by using a precise rocket boost. It does seem like it would be impossible to fit through this gap, as the character's wheelchair is much wider than the available space. However, by using the rocket, the rotational velocity of the back wheel increases considerably, and when it hits the back wall, the rotation causes it to compress into the wheelchair, allowing the character to barely squeeze through. He flew through the air to the ending section of the level and reached the flag in under 30 seconds. With this, a category split was made to house both full and no Gut Bus Extreme speedruns of the Happy Wheels demo. However, the latter subcategory was eventually axed as there became less and less of a reason for it to exist, wiping Albigu's PBs and a few others from the leaderboards. It is also worth mentioning that, in his run, Dre took a faster but riskier path through the Snowy Mountain level that saved over 30 seconds, where he rode a sled back down the mountain to reach one of the other ending platforms. Additionally, Dre incorporated a new strategy in Rope Swings where he landed on the spiky bottom of the level without getting stuck, made possible thanks to him hitting the jump button just before hitting the ground. He then promptly jumped again and dismounted, reaching the ending platform from below. He also made a small adjustment in It Keeps Happening, okay, I'm gonna stop doing that, where he angled the rocket booster on Wheelchair Guy before boosting up instead of tilting the entire character backwards. It would take an entire year for Dre to return back to the category, but he came back with an absolute bombshell, a PB of 457, the first sub 5 in the category's history. In the entire run, he only really made 3 notable mistakes, those being a reset in Gut Bus Extreme and 2 quick resets in Rope Swings, costing maybe 15 seconds total. There was seemingly still a bit more room for the category to grow, and Dre's run description read,
First sub 5, but remember, I'll be back.
He was certainly right. The very next day, Dre achieved a 441. His BMX Park 2 was way cleaner, and the character's body seemingly exploding right before the end actually ended up working towards his advantage. Aside from 2 quick resets in Gut Bus Extreme, this run was extremely solid, with his movement just becoming cleaner and cleaner. The description of this one read,
Luckiest run ever. Cut 10 seconds, but you know, I'll be back.
well, there it is again. Dre would be back, but how much further could he really go? By refining his movement and implementing a new menuing strategy where he would press the escape button twice to skip the end panel rising animation after each level, saving around 10 seconds across the run, Dre had nearly achieved the first ever sub 4 on the Happy Wheels demo. It is worth mentioning that, during Dre's conquest, a runner named Ninjas for the Win 64 was briefly displayed at first place on the leaderboard with a time of 4:13, since Dre didn't end up submitting this run until later. While Dre had managed to maintain his status as the record holder for quite a long time, it certainly wasn't without some competition, something that he would later be reminded of. Just a week later, Dre uploaded a run that started like this. A floor clip to the ending platform in Trap Track that saved around 25 seconds. A strategy that opened the door to a sub 330 possibly being achieved in the category. The explosion from the mine gave the Segway guy just enough speed to barely interact with the ending platform's hitbox before dying. This strategy had been known all the way back when Albigu first started playing the category, with it having been utilized by quite a few individual level speedrunners, but its sheer difficulty and inconsistency prevented it from being used in demo speedruns. Until now. By starting with Trap Track, Dre was able to get what was by far the most inconsistent level out of the way first, and he ended up finishing with a 344, the first sub 4 in the category's history.
Yeah, I'm done with demo for a while. I don't know if I can beat this. This is gonna be beaten soon, hopefully.
Dre had implemented a strategy in Snowy Mountain where he descended in crawl mode instead of riding the zipline to the sled, saving around 9 seconds with optimal movement, unlocking even more potential in the category. Unfortunately, it would take Dre around 4 months to beat his run. Thankfully, it would be quite the comeback. The man had done it, sub 330, no deaths and no resets. In Trap Track, Dre was assisted by a more consistent setup that he developed for the mine skip, which did not require him to jump to hit the mine. While going up the ramp, he would hold up, left, and control to stay in a crouched position, allowing him to preserve most of his speed. Right before reaching the top of the ramp, Dre leaned forward, ejected from the Segway, grabbed the wall behind the mine, and then let go to land on it. Dre commented,
I've spent the last 2.5 years grinding this game. About 6 months ago, I told myself I would get a sub 330 if it was the last thing I did.
he seemed to be quite content with the run that he achieved, moving on from demo speedruns while sitting atop the leaderboard by 44 seconds. This run was extremely impressive and truly seemed to be the pinnacle of Happy Wheel speedrunning, but was it truly the greatest run that this video seeks to highlight? Not even close. Dre truly did leave the category alone for almost an entire year. However, he would have quite the rude awakening on June 22nd, 2020, as a runner named Adam V247 set a personal best of 355, and 2 days later, a world record of 325. Adam was quite the experienced Happy Wheels player, holding the individual level world record in multiple of the demo levels prior to tackling the entire category. In his 325, his Snowy Mountain completion was 10 seconds faster than it was in Dre's record, thanks to a much more optimal kickback from the boosters and by completely avoiding all of the holes in the ground, which is what QWERTY had managed to do in their slightly faster individual level world record. Dre may have been done with demo runs back in 2019, but with his record being taken, he knew that he had to return. In October of 2020, he snapped back with a 312. To match Adam's gameplay in Snowy Mountain, he decided to actually start with that level instead of Trap Track. This was more risky since Trap Track was still wildly inconsistent, but his 34-second completion of Snowy Mountain, 15 seconds faster than his previous PB, really spoke for itself. The only really noticeable issue with the run was that he had some unoptimal movement in Dawn of the Dead, due to him being unprepared to play it after accidentally selecting the level out of order. However, he remarked in the description that about 4 seconds were lost between BMX Park 2 and Satan, and that Trap Track and Gut Bus Extreme each had around a second of time save as well. With better menuing and gameplay, he knew that a sub 3 demo run was possible, and he was going to go for it. A month later, he shaved just a second off his PB with a 311.
This shouldn't be here for a while. Sub 3, please don't take too long.
Another year passed, and nothing. It seems like sub 3 was just too much to achieve. However, behind the scenes, Dre was not down for the count. He was still grinding the category, periodically playing the game in hopes that he would finally reach the milestone. And in December of 2021, the bombshell finally dropped.
I did it.
2:59. On Christmas Eve, Dre had finally broken the final minute barrier in Demo Any% at the tail end of an over 8-hour-long attempt session. His last Hail Mary to achieve the milestone before 2022 thanks to an upcoming vacation. The dedication was just astonishing. He had been working towards this goal for years and years, and it had actually just happened. He had truly become the master of the Snowy Mountain Cha-Cha, as he completed the level in just around 30 seconds. However, in true Dre fashion, he wasn't yet satisfied with the run, especially because of the extremely dumb death that he had at the start of Dawn of the Dead. Now that he had broken the immense mental barrier standing in his path, he was ready to apply his true potential in the category, hoping to achieve a sub 250. Once again, he was back to the grind. 2 months later, in February of 2022, he claimed a 251, a run that tragically had a failed starting room exit in Gut Bus Extreme, costing around 1.5 seconds. The same month, he was on a run that was already 3.4 seconds ahead out of Trap Track, and despite a slightly unoptimal Satan, he was easily on 2.4x pace if he got a first try Gut Bus Extreme. He got it, and then...
Grab the rope. Oh my god! Oh my god! Oh my god! Do you see that glass on top of the helicopter? That's a freaking like 2% chance, dude. That saves a second and a half.
6 seconds ahead. But how had Dre saved so much time on this level, and why exactly was he freaking out over a tiny piece of glass on the helicopter? In Dawn of the Dead, the helicopter that the player grabs onto is actually tied by an invisible rope to a frozen ball that is on a slightly downward sloping block. When any object, including the player, touches the helicopter, the ball unfreezes, allowing it to roll. What had happened in Dre's run was that a piece of glass from the window at the very start of the level had managed to fly and hit the helicopter after the explosion, causing it to start moving much sooner than intended. On the run of his life, Dre had just been handed a time save that had only happened to him around 10 to 15 times before in his thousands of attempts at playing the level. He nailed It Keeps Happening. But then...
Oh my god, I choked. $249. Oh my god. I lost 3 seconds and got a 249.
A bit of a tragic end to an absolutely insane run, but he still got the first 2-4X. And that's where the story ends. He had finally achieved his goal. Oh come on, do you seriously think that Dre would go out on a run that ended like that? Before doing more runs, Dre sought to find a setup for Dawn of the Dead that would allow the early helicopter activation to be based on his skill of performing a series of predetermined key presses, rather than it relying on pure luck. In a deterministic game like Happy Wheels, if keys are pressed on the exact same frames as an earlier execution, it will always lead to the exact same result. The first setup that he found involved buffering up and the jump key before entering the level to cause a stationary jump, releasing jump in the air, and then releasing up after the explosion. However, because of the stationary jump, this setup was barely any faster. Next, he found a setup that involved buffering up before the level and then pressing shift on exactly the 21st frame after starting, removing the sizable time loss from the stationary jump. He started going for this setup in runs despite it being slightly slower than the lucky skip in his PB. However, a few dozen runs in, Dre would accidentally discover the definitive version of the early helicopter activation setup.
I missed it.
He pressed shift way too early, on frame 18 instead of frame 21, leading him to believe that he had failed the strategy. But this ended up happening instead.
It's a tight window. Can't be too mad. Okay, I'm sorry, what?
The glass had reached the helicopter way sooner than it had on frame 21, activating it so early that he wasn't even able to reach it in time. If he was somehow able to reach the helicopter, the frame 18 setup would be half a second faster than the early activation in his PB, and 1.5 seconds faster than the frame 21 setup. Thankfully, by incorporating some more optimal movement at the start of the level, he found that it was possible to not just reach the helicopter, but also to grab onto its tail, which saved an additional second. Despite having the new setup at his disposal, Dre's next PB wouldn't come so easy. Through his failed runs, he had an additional piece of motivation pushing him forward. The desire to beat the then-standing world record in Red Ball of 248.194 by the entire country of Sweden. At least that's what speedrun.com may lead you to believe. 2 months and more than 10,000 more attempts later, Dre was 1.7 seconds ahead going into Gutbus Extreme after hitting the frame 18 setup. Sadly, he failed the first try room exit in Gutbus Extreme. However, this time, he didn't mess up the menuing going into rope swings and scored himself a 246. Judging from the description, there was still some more room to go. The very same day, he was ahead going into Gutbus Extreme, but he unfortunately didn't save any time due to unoptimal gameplay in the level. He maintained the small lead and got a lower 246. Still not what he wanted. Thankfully, 4 days later, the stars would finally align.
It's over. It's finally over, dude.
Dre's speedrun of the Happy Wheels demo in 2 minutes and 43 seconds is, without a doubt, the greatest Happy Wheels speedrun ever performed. The years of dedication and the tens of thousands of attempts that he poured in all culminated in a nearly flawless speedrun with essentially zero notable mistakes. Demo Any% was initially a category that challenged people to stay consistent instead of always attempting the craziest strategies in each level. But if you broke Dre's most recent world record up into 9 different individual level speedruns, it would be extremely hard to convince people that the completions were actually all performed back to back under immense pressure. There is still a bit of room to push the run further, with a time in the 2-3x range certainly being attainable through movement optimization or the implementation of more risky strategies. For example, there is a strategy in Satan which Dre has hit in previous runs where he would simply not dismount from the wheelchair before entering the crusher, able to save up to 2 seconds. However, with second place sitting 42 seconds behind him in this 3-minute long category, there isn't really too much incentive for Dre to climb any further. He finally got the run that he wanted. In Dre's own words,
I'll return to this category when someone challenges the throne. However, it is currently a very, very tall throne.
so do you know when you started playing Happy Wheels and whatnot?
Most people who have heard of Happy Wheels probably started with the online game, but I never played the online game. I started playing demo in middle school with my friends in study hall because I did not want to do homework.
Wow, so like how many years ago was that?
7 or 8 years.
That's crazy.
Yeah, and I've played it consistently the whole time. I've probably taken a 6-month break at the longest. I have 3 or 4 different documents where I've gone through and played every single level 100 times, and I've done that 3-4 times now, just playing each level.
So I know that LiveSplit showed that you had roughly 14,000 attempts in the category when you got your 243, but I know that you only actually started using LiveSplit pretty recently. So how many attempts total would you estimate that you actually have in the category?
Attempts is really hard because this is probably the fastest resetting game on speedrun.com. 14,000 resets. I only started doing that whenever I started streaming, and that was only 5 months ago maybe. So if you multiply that times
16 over 8 years.
Yeah, it's a lot.
Probably over 100,000 attempts.
No, absolutely over 100,000 attempts. If we're talking hours, I probably have somewhere between 2,000, 2,500 hours in this game. Only demo.
Smokes. That's absolutely mind-blowing. Holy smokes. Dre's unique dedication to Happy Wheels demo speedruns is unlike anything else that I have ever seen in speedrunning. The ability for someone to almost single-handedly push a category so far for so long with almost no attention being drawn to them is truly mind-blowing. Dre's story is truly the most genuine representation of speedrunning. Someone working towards a goal solely because they themselves want to achieve it, with them having zero motivation whatsoever by the reactions that other people will have to their accomplishment. Indeed, Dre's 243, the speedrun that he spent so much time and effort to achieve, currently sits on YouTube with just 46 views. So please, do yourself a favor and go watch Dre's full run, and if you have been inspired by his story, please consider dropping him a subscription as well. The paths that people walk in the speedrunning community are often extremely unique, and it's crazy to think that if it weren't for me randomly wanting to do Happy Wheels mobile speedruns back in 2017, I probably would have never been able to witness this story and share it with you all. If you did end up enjoying this video, please also consider hitting the subscribe button below this video, as there are still so many more stories to tell. However, if you are on mobile, don't accidentally miss and hit the save button, or you might accidentally add one of my videos to your only public YouTube playlist for 9 months and counting. Anyways, just know that speedrunning at its core isn't about getting some kind of attention or respect for your accomplishments. The most genuine, fulfilling moments come when you set a goal for yourself and you do whatever it takes to achieve it. So pick up a controller or keyboard and start playing whatever you are passionate about. You never know where it might lead. Thank you all very much for watching. An enormous thank you goes out to Dre, Aggle, AdamV247, Lupus, Qwerty, and Harris for all helping me out immensely with this project. If you are wanting to watch more scripted Happy Wheels content, Harris actually has an entire retrospective series over on his channel that covers various topics relating to glitches, in-game replays, and speedrunning. So I highly recommend checking those out. I hope that you all have a great rest of your day.
Tickets for the in-person Sin Week events are available through the end of January. Don't miss out on your chance to join the Sin Crew and the Sin Club for delicious food, sinful movie watching, and more. The live event is in Nashville this March. Check the link in the video description for all the details.
Welcome to Sin Week! Woo!
An incredible 1 minute and 5 seconds for 3 logos. I see the fine folks at Point Grey aren't shy about being assholes, but just because you admit it doesn't make it right. Also, at what point would a child's desk be subjected to a shopping cart full of groceries falling on top of it? I wouldn't put it past this movie to f up an apostrophe, but on the off chance it's deliberate, I have a question. Did the Shopwells feel obligated to start a supermarket business because of their name? Or is this some marketing bullshit that someone came up with because turning Shopwell into a name would inspire more trust and loyalty from the community? I really don't care which, and I feel like either deserves a sin. There's no way this is enough carts for a store this size. Yes, there could be more inside, but we get a pretty good look at the entrance to this store, and there's no sign of additional carts. 11 stars? Is this some sort of new Confederate flag or something? And is there a reason why the stripes get progressively bigger as it goes down? I can already see that much of this movie's humor is going to come from animated grocery items swearing, which, admittedly, I will find amusing for the first few seconds of this movie. The corn starts singing, and I don't think there was a good enough warning to tell me how many drugs to take before watching this. Granted, this is a raunchy animated movie about grocery store items featuring Seth Rogen, but you know what? That's plenty enough warning for how many drugs I was supposed to take. The lyric goes, "We're super sure there's nothing shitty waiting for us in the great beyond," and I appreciate that as a joke because of the irony, but wouldn't you ask yourself why the song doesn't focus on the positive? Like, would a doctor advertise, "Nothing shitty will happen to you when you visit Dr. Hackblood"? Because something that just barely qualifies as a song is playing here, we can't share the accents on the show. So you'll just have to trust me when I say that they are 1,000% more offensive than you'd expect, while also being in the bottom 1% of things most likely to offend you in this movie. There's way too much to unpack about this racist bottle of sauerkraut that says it wants to exterminate the juice, but I'm going to unpack it anyway, just for you. First off, the wordplay is the "if you seek Amy" of racist grocery anthems. Second, some marketing genius apparently signed off on the Nazi color scheme, having Fuhrer in the brand name and 2 F's on the bottle stylized to look like a goddamn SS badge. This product would be unmarketable in almost every state in America. Also, from what we see in this movie, most of the items do not move independently around the store like the toys in Toy Story, unless it's for the purpose of a musical number. So it's difficult, for instance, to believe sauerkraut would have animosity towards apple juice because those things aren't anywhere near each other. All the hot dogs are men and horny bastards, and all the buns are women and only care about intimacy. No shop, no matter how badly run, would go to the effort of stacking excess stock this f***ing high or this f***ing precariously. This is one wayward cart away from literally killing a person, and that is a lot of paperwork, believe me. By the way, why are the hot dogs not in the refrigerated section? Do you want listeria? Because this is how you get listeria.
By this time tomorrow, we're all gonna be 5 inches deep in some buns, son.
Hey, my dudes, we're all super baked, but did you ever notice hot dogs are like totally shaped and shit? And we like shove them into buns, which are like totally vagina shaped? Dudes, there's like a movie in there. And have you noticed how dumb religion is?
I'm sure there's some kind of smushed bun out there waiting for me.
This movie's version of foreshadowing a happy ending for Barry here is that, as a being who doesn't fit into the cultural norm of attractive, he will only find love with another being who also doesn't fit into that norm. And I honestly don't think the movie realizes how patronizing or offensive that is.
F*** you, weenies.
The malice behind this "f*** you" feels several notches of passion higher than anyone who hates their job as much as Darren here would bring to any one task.
Lined up, waiting to get filled with my meat.
As beautiful as this tale of love is, here's where the dream somewhat falls apart. Frank said that they'll all be paired up with buns in the great beyond. The only problem is that this is a pack of 8 buns being paired up with a pack of 10 sausages. Either 2 of those buns are getting some serious DP, or the 8 wieners who figure this out first are going to murder the 2 that didn't.
And the answer is, as soon as we get to the great beyond, and as deep as you'll let me.
Look, if you're a hot dog hoping to get inside a bun, I'm not going to break down the psychology of that. You love who you love. But how do these hot dogs have any hope of scoring with any specific bun in these packs when any random set of buns and any random set of hot dogs could be picked by the gods? And what if you're in the movie UHF? You'll end up in a goddamn Twinkie.
I'm pretty nervous about this. I don't know how well I'm gonna perform once it happens.
What exactly is their definition of performing? I mean, cool, they want to f***ing stuff, but do they know what that actually means or entails? For example, how do they know it'll feel any better than the sensation of the other wieners that are currently pressed up against them?
I realized I bought honey mustard. Is it cool if I just go swap it?
I don't give a flying
homeboy.
It's not just the cussing groceries, it's also the cussing humans that this movie constantly goes to for laughs. Sure, the humor here is that a cashier would be this blasé about her job, but when you see scenes like this, you realize you're watching a raunchy SNL skit that's been inflated to 90 minutes. So wait, you're saying that the guy who bought honey mustard instead of regular mustard went past all the regular mustard to pick up this jar of honey mustard on the bottom shelf? Get the f*** out of here with that shit.
You have learned the terrible truth. Now give it to yourself, or I will slit your throat while you sleep.
Did you guys just hear that?
None of these guys heard that.
I was starting to worry the guys didn't want douches no more.
Even when you were the last one on the shelf? I was happy to put this off until now, but we need to address how the food is moving in this universe and why the humans aren't questioning it. I was happy to accept that the mustard walking down these items might be perceived as falling, but how the f does it roll up the rest of the shopping? Or is this lady not questioning why the mustard she just put in her cart is defying gravity?
I mean, what is he? Honey? Is he mustard? It's like, make up your mind or just kill yourself.
Jesus Christ.
You been to the Great Beyond? Great my asshole.
Does he have an asshole, though? I'm seeing eyes and some oddly disembodied eyebrows, but when he was returned to the shelf, we got a pretty good look at his undercarriage, and there was not a sphincter to be seen. Show me the mustard sphincter, you cowards! Is this seriously happening out in the open right now? I may have to forgive Toy Story all of its sins. At least the inanimate objects in those worlds tried to keep a secret. What kind of collision is going to cause all these items to fall out of it like this? Was the guy pushing his cart 60 miles an hour? I liked the Saving Private Ryan parody and all, but seriously, how f***ing oblivious are these shoppers to steer a cart through a bunch of flour and wasted grocery stock? If they have the intelligence to communicate with each other and comprehend a system of beliefs, they're smart enough to have not attended the Prometheus School of Running Away from Things.
I accidentally dropped a few things back there.
And for some reason didn't bother to replace any of the things I lost. Once it's on the floor, I don't go back for more, like my grandpa used to say.
Clean up on aisle 2.
He didn't tell you which aisle it was, dude.
This MILF dropped a douche.
Oh, MILF. Thank you so much.
Jesus, does Fox News run this grocery store? Is its main clientele its viewers?
You think I give a about PB or J?
Man, this douche sure does have a big mouth. It reminds me a lot of a character named Lola on a Netflix series that I've watched 6 seasons of. Can't remember the name of it, but this is definitely Nick Kroll, who turned in hilarious performances in The League, Kroll Show, and Loving.
How you like them apples?
Who, us?
No, not you.
I'd love to say something about the abundance of apples correlating to assholery here, but this douche says a food-based exclamation that ends up being taken literally recurring joke is so f***ing dumb that it's making me feel self-conscious about our recurring jokes. Thanks, asshole.
Who, us?
No, not you. This is not a question I ever imagined I'd have cause to ask, but why doesn't the douche have legs? I can't think of a single reason why the sausages and buns would have a full set of appendages, but the douche is forced to walk around on its hands. So, why did this dude ask for a cleanup on aisle 2 if he's the one who eventually cleaned it up?
Hey, who you calling useless, you flappy f***?
Seriously, I could make a whole bonus round out of the number of times the movie just has something cussed to be funny, but it would be A, subjective, and B, the entire movie.
I'm Sammy Bagel Jr.
Jesus Christ.
I am Kareem Abdul-Lavash.
Jesus Christ.
I am to have 77 bottles of extra virgin olive oil.
These caricatures are depicting exactly what you think they're depicting, and somehow everyone involved still has a career as of this recording.
You got nothing to score.
I am not pretending to be an expert on feminine hygiene products, but I feel like we may be over-engineering douches if they're capable of denting hubcaps.
If you f***ing tell anyone about this, you're gonna deny it, bro.
The douche wants to sexually assault a juice box, and I guess I'm supposed to die of hilarity. What a great time at the movies this is.
I'm juicing up!
So the fabric of reality in this living food dimension is exclusively pun-based. The douche getting literally juiced means that it gets a ton of muscles, and that's supposed to make sense? Be funny? I feel like this movie got so excited by the R rating that it forgot to bring anything more than knock-knock joke levels of effort to the comedy.
First, you come into our aisle and occupy more and more shelf space. You even have settlements now on the west shelf that you claim as your own.
I get that the movie wants to imitate geopolitical realities in the world using grocery store items, but this shit just doesn't make sense, and it's pretty f***ing gross to drag the Israel-Palestine conflict into this movie. All the items in the grocery store know that they have no choice where they go on the shelves, and the gods are responsible for where they get placed.
The sauerkraut kicked us out of every decent aisle.
Oh, they did not. There's no way the bagels have been anywhere except where bread is sold. Even if they were kicked out by the sauerkraut, the movie hasn't done any legwork to show us any of the political strife because it's been so focused on the sexual tension between hot dogs and buns this whole time. Also, the sauerkraut was focused on juice the last time we saw them, because that's such a hilarious pun. But if they're going after literal Jewish inventions, how does literal juice factor into their racism?
We were displaced.
Don't you talk to me about displacement!
Unfortunately, this metaphor wasn't just a one-off joke. The movie will continue to beat off to this conceit with no sign of a satisfying climax in sight.
I don't know, isn't there room for both of you in your aisle? It seems like a pretty big aisle.
It takes a special kind of hubris to portray the American sausage as the one with the simple answer to peace, unless peace is a metaphor for oil in this movie.
Are you seeing this? They're all out of their packages.
Hate to constantly bring up Toy Story, but at least that movie had rules. Are you telling me this kind of stuff happens all the time, out in the open, and somehow the humans are unaware of it? It's not like the grocery items can just fall limp when the humans arrive. They have to get back into packaging and back on the shelf to appear like nothing happened. Plus, in this environment, there would be cameras. Unless this is all happening in my head right now, I'm calling bull on a liquored up grocery party.
This is a place of unparalleled sin.
Let's see, I've personally written over 50 sins in the first 20 minutes alone, so yeah, this checks out.
Wanna dance?
No, thank you, man. I'm quite irie.
Kristen Wiig has been nominated for an Oscar. I mean, not for this, obviously. I'm just saying that seeing her in this movie makes me sad.
I'll just be out here dry humping this 40-ouncer. Not. Yeah, I said not.
Doing not jokes in 2016, or really anywhere past 1992. Truly incredible this movie came out in 2016 and not like 1982 or something. The well-worn stereotypes of the past are alive and well in this movie. I don't think it's woke to point out. They're just tired comedic tropes that don't work anymore, even in 2016.
My kind once had a pristine isle, majestic and untouched. Then we were driven out of it by a bunch of goddamn f***ing crackers.
Movie continues to have all the subtlety and nuance of an unannounced shaped enema dispenser. Also in grocery store world, there's never been a time where the store sold just liquor and then pushed all that off the shelf to make room for crackers. I get the joke, but there has to be an element of truth in the world you create for this to be funny.
Who are you?
We never expire.
We are immortal.
Okay, that explains why you haven't been thrown away by the staff, but it doesn't explain how you haven't been purchased yet.
They call me Mr. Grits.
This in the heat of the night reference is so shoehorned in, I thought I was about to go to a wedding, and I hate weddings.
I can take you to him, chica. I take you to him real good.
Early in the movie, Brenda could tell Frank was bullshitting because of the tone of his voice, but somehow she doesn't pick up on the sketchy way this guy is talking. Either some company went to the effort of creating a f***ing themed bar to store their excess stock, or at some point, the food people hollowed out this display and created a bar themselves based on knowledge they shouldn't have. I understand neither option, and I dislike both equally.
And bless me, Santa Chimichanga, and protect me from the Dark Lord.
Salma Hayek plays a sexy Mexican taco, and I dare you to go out in public and say that.
Get your nose out of my crotch!
There's no reason for anyone's nose to be in anyone's crotch, because there is so much f***ing room back here. I swear, sometimes it feels like this movie was animated entirely independent of the script.
What gives, bro? You told me you had them.
The real question is, why didn't Tequila just bring everybody straight to douche instead of just dropping them off at a bar?
So you dragged me over to this f***ing aisle with all these illegal products.
Wait a minute. Why are they illegal? Yes, I understand the stereotype that's being masterfully painted here, but it isn't illegal to sell Mexican food. Yet. So what exactly is the joke here, apart from the obviously offensive one?
The coyotes used this tunnel to smuggle some of us out of the aisle in hope of a better life.
Haha, it's like the US-Mexico border. We get it. But if this was supposed to be some sort of escape route, why does it just end up in another part of the store? Also, isn't the goal here to be purchased? Isn't the great beyond the better life that everyone is searching for? I know some of the greatest ideas can be conceived under the influence, but there's no harm in fleshing them out once you're sober.
So we, the non-perishables, created a story. The story of the great beyond.
So the non-perishables invented the great beyond to allow everyone to lead a happy life before their inevitably painful death. Cool. I can see the logic in that. But hundreds of items, just like honey mustard, are returned every day. How are the three of them getting to every single returned item and keeping them quiet while also maintaining their very packed schedule of weed smoking?
Wasn't there a part today about exterminating juice? I didn't write that shit. I love juice.
There you go with the juice puns again. But I wonder why the racist sauerkraut didn't include bagels into the rewritten lyrics, since they apparently hate those as well.
Wait, do you guys have any proof of this?
But what exactly is this proof going to do? In the long term, there's nothing they could do to prevent being eaten. The whole point of the lie was so they could at least live in peace until they were masticated to death.
Oh, I really needed that douche.
I wonder which of the movie's 5 writers came up with this one. The movie goes to the effort of showing that the carrots escaping look to the human like they're just rolling off the counter. But how the f does she rationalize the 2 hot dogs that have traversed the sink and are balancing upright on the f***ing window ledge? Also, what the f was she trying to do here? Was she deliberately acting like a f***ing serial killer here instead of a regular-ass human? This sticker was on the grape juice box and was used as a bandage for God knows how long, then pulled off again. There's no way there's any stickiness left.
Get the butter!
We all know butter wouldn't have worked here, but no one ever gets any butter, and Brenda has pulled through the gap without a problem after this. Somehow, these salt and vinegar chips are $9.99, while the rest of the similar stuff in the aisle is priced at $3.99.
I'm gonna get you, my pretty! I'm gonna get you and your little sausage too!
Okay, look, that one didn't even have any clever wordplay. You're just ripping off dialogue from better movies.
I begged them to stop, but they just wouldn't.
If hot dogs want to be inside buns for sexual gratification, why don't condoms want hot dogs, also hot dogs, inside them? So we know it's not just the food that's alive in this universe, thanks to this animated condom. So why doesn't the shoe have arms and legs? Why aren't the cars alive? Nice A113 reference and dragging Pixar into this, but wouldn't Dixar have a different Easter egg? Why not A69?
There is a great beyond without you, and I'm gonna go there and fill myself with something else.
Because it's obviously impossible for two people to have different belief systems and still have a healthy relationship. The only option here is to part ways, clearly. And no, I don't think the movie is trying to make a point about relationships here as much as it's just trying to get these two in a fight so their reunion feels earned, which it won't.
You couldn't fit an eggplant in there. It's too big. It'll tear you in half.
Oh, you'd be amazed what I could fit in here. What the f is going on with these two?
Once again, movie makes a pointless cutaway to a character saying a line with in it, because the movie can't survive on innuendo alone. This movie is like the Logan show your scene drawn out into an hour and a half. The movie now wastes time setting up Meatloaf singing "I'd do anything for love, but I won't do that." And you'd swear the whole movie was made just so they could do this one expensive joke.
Bath salts, here I come.
Providing the internet with actual instructions on how to inject yourself with bath salts in a world where people willingly ingest Tide Pods. Also, does this fucking reprobate really strike you as the kind of person that would print shit out? He'd be viewing this on his phone at best, but more likely from a beer-stained napkin. Also, why did this guy tell the drug forum that he got a baggie of bath salts when he clearly just bought it a few minutes ago and would not have had time to post this question, get an answer, and print it out in that amount of time? Like, I get it. He could totally say he got them before getting them so he could get an answer, but why didn't he just ask, how do you do bath salts? The movie now plays Little Green Bag, the song you know from the beginning of Reservoir Dogs, for this drug montage, but it looks more like the drug scene from Pulp Fiction, which used the Centurion's Bullwinkle Part 2 as the song. This is reminiscent of when Mike Damone tells Mark Ratner to play side 1 of Led Zeppelin 4 during his date with Jennifer Jason Leigh in Fast Times at Ridgemont High. And in the next scene, Mark's playing Cashmere from Physical Graffiti, and you're like, you done f***ed up, Mark Ratner. The kind of physical things that hot dogs can do with their secret arms and legs make me think this movie isn't entirely on the level about real hot dog anatomy.
Bath salts must be kicking in.
You don't have to be this guy to enjoy this movie.
Whoa, the bath salts are showing me the real world. It's fucking lifted the veil of non-reality.
So the movie is saying that certain drugs will allow humans to see the world of talking food, etc. Fine, whatever. It's your universe, and you can make up whatever shit you want to explain it. But if these two realities actually coexist, and the sentient food isn't just an entirely separate conceit of the movie, you have so much more explaining to do. It suggests that there's some force in the universe that's translating all the actions of the sentient food dimension into what is perceived by humans in the real world. Jesus, there's a God in this universe. They must be really fucking bored, because that is a lot of unnecessary maintenance.
Look at me! I ain't got no legs, you
Why does an individual slice of pizza have its own arms and legs? And isn't it made from things that would have been sentient before it was pizza?
What did he do to you?
You don't wanna fucking know.
Yeah, but as a sentient roll of toilet paper, is the horror from tearing off the sheets, or is it from the wiping? Are the individual sheets sentient, or just the roll? The dead toilet paper roll next to the toilet suggests that it's the roll, not the sheets. But you're talking like someone who knows what it's like to be used as a wipe, and I'm calling human shit on that.
You know hummus?
Know him? I'm gonna go so far as to say I consider hummus one of my dearest friends.
And yet, he's never told you about lavage? Of course, my main complaint with this nonsense is that somehow individual bagels know an individual named hummus, when there are likely many hummuses out there. And you'd think the dynamics of grocery store life would prevent you from getting attached to just one hummus.
I was scraped off and discarded, and eventually found myself stuck to a shoe that dropped me here.
Okay, so you're a genius and you'd been in this druggie's house the whole time and you couldn't save the others who were here? Then why are you here? There's absolutely no reason you or any of these other assholes should be waiting around to die if you've got a genius piece of gum that can help you out of this situation.
If the human operates his automotive, the journey should take 9.8 minutes.
Great, that last part was all you had to say, really.
This weenie would be amazing at sinning movies with the other weenies on our team. These knives would not be outside of normal packaging because this is a tremendous safety hazard for all humans and children alike. Go f*** yourself with this horror show of open cutlery, you dicks. I'm really struggling to get past this, so please bear with me here. If a human stumbles stumbled upon this scene, would they see a hot dog flailing against this book and just blame it on the fucking wind? How do humans explain away this shit? Perhaps this is bold of me, but I'm going to assume that the real-world cookbook doesn't have food illustrations complete with arms and legs and faces with terrified expressions on their finished meals. So how exactly is Frank seeing this shit? Why would illustrations created by humans have a secondary fourth dimension aspect to them that can only be seen by creatures they don't know exist? And if these are photographs, we're totally burying the lead on the camera tech that can capture details only visible in certain dimensions. Also, I understand for story purposes you'd show people eating this food and the absolute horror story it tells, but do cookbooks usually show people stuffing their faces like this? Wouldn't you just see the picture of the food?
They need to know how wrong they all are before it's too late!
Why? What the good is it going to do? Where's the nihilist representation in this story? Just when I was beginning to enjoy this movie, I can't finish that sentence.
Friends!
Have you ever been in a supermarket or even a department store that has screens set up like this that the cashiers can broadcast through? Why the would you ever need this? And even if there was a good reason, that would be so quickly abused by the first understandably disgruntled employee that they would be abandoned shortly after the first broadcasted genitalia.
Ramen! Country Club lemonade! Lend me your ears of corn.
The fact that the corn is rolling his eyes at this reference suggests an actual awareness of its origin. And I just don't know where the these creatures are getting their hands on Shakespeare in a world where a cookbook is a forbidden tome.
I can't run! I'll melt!
Okay, then, well, hi!
Is the ice cream right next to the computer where Frank is? Because there's no way he heard that. And even if he does, there's no way he hears all the groceries' objections to his plans.
You want to believe that? Or this?
You can't tell me that these food items don't have pictures of people eating the food on the box somewhere, especially the cereal. The movie just reuses the same animation from the beginning of the movie for this key turning sequence. How do I know? The fucking wristwatch says July 2nd both times. I simply don't believe there's someone at 7 a.m. buying hot dog buns and taking them from the bottom rack, and it just happens to be the pack Brenda is in, especially after it seemed like nothing from the display got picked up until the end of the business day yesterday. I'm not sure I brought it up yet, but it's weird that some of the sentient food in the store can take the form of a box, and some of the sentient food takes the form of the food itself. Why does this box of cookie squares have life? Why is this dickhead always running around with his trash cart at the opening instead of doing all this before opening? Does anyone ever come into the store before it opens to do jobs like this?
Doesn't mean it's too late to redeem yourself. Take it from me.
Sure, Barry is just hanging out in the exact vent that Frank just happens to find himself sobbing under. Why the f not? What?
And then they figured out how to drive my car, snuck into an AC vent.
They did what? Okay, maybe the chewing gum managed to figure out how to use that map to get to the supermarket, but how the f did they all manage to drive a fucking car or even know what one was? Also, how did their tiny bodies manage to drag this head through the AC vents? And why? Okay, I get that you want to bring proof that the god is dead, but did you need the whole fucking head to do that? You couldn't have just brought one of his giant eyes or, I don't know, anything other than a giant fucking head? Also, for the final time, I hope, what would have happened if a human saw this? How would they have been able to rationalize a severed head being dragged along by a sausage, a collection of snacks, and some gum in a motorized chair?
Let's move, boys!
Where did this baggie of bath salts come from? Stoner dude ripped the top clean off this one, and we only see him acquire the one bag from the dealer, meaning there's a whole section of this film on the editing floor where all the snacks scored some more bath salts from the dealer or just killed him for them. Especially weird considering this store probably has bath salts in stock. Holy shit! Why aren't the bath salts sentient? Putting one goddamn jar on the conveyor belt as you begin to check out. You have two hands, people. Put more than one jar on the conveyor belt today and make the person behind you believe they'll be checking out before tomorrow.
The bath salts are primed.
Make it rain.
Somehow, the tiny toothpicks managed to get through clothing and deliver a minute amount of the liquid bath salts that is still able to break reality for everyone, despite having no guarantee that they'd hit an artery. I hate the sentences this movie has made me say. Also, since when are these assholes good at archery all of a sudden? Not to say I know what kind of archery skills they had before this moment, but I think we can all agree they were non-existent, and they're using toothpicks. How the f did this woman get all of this into that one bag?
There is no way this is gonna work.
This works. Okay, last time, I promise. How is Frank having an effect on objects in the real world? Or are we saying that in the real world, this door is unlocked and it's only locked in the fourth dimension? Does that mean it's only locked for the woman because she can now perceive the fourth dimension? How is the bun that only has hands in this dimension pulling the human's hair? This woman squeezes Frank to the point that he's visibly getting injured by it, but somehow he doesn't turn into mush. I honestly have no clue whose first instinct would be to eat the possessed food. How are there already gumballs in these slots? Do these machines come with free sample gum for any asshole customer to take?
This is gonna hurt so fucking much.
So what's this asshole's version of the Great Beyond? He clearly knows that his destiny is to be opened up and have his contents used, so what the fuck is he fighting for? As the food apocalypse continues, I have to wonder what happens when all the humans stop being high. The sentient foodiverse is on a separate plane of reality. Do all the sober people see this fighting as some lunatics rolling around in inanimate food? They have to keep everyone on a bath salt high in order for this revolution to work? Not sure that matters at this point, and I'm kind of hoping that Frank never left that campfire with firewater, and this is all some insane weed-induced trip.
Not exactly what I was looking for, but it, you know.
The question is, why does the douche think he can use this guy's body like a puppet to get revenge? He could have easily found Frank earlier, especially after he got on the camera system a minute ago and told everyone his whereabouts.
Matter cannot be created or destroyed human.
Sure, why not?
Now!
Oh, bullshit. Did Barry have anything like enough time to organize these assholes into creating a series of bumpers that would propel poor Darren? Yes, poor Darren, because he didn't do anything fucking wrong here other than understandably hate working in retail. Propel poor Darren to his death using these propane tanks was purely opportunistic, and there's no fucking way he could have built this and set this shit up. Fuck you. Barry even had time to pack fireworks into that thing? Fuck you.
Ew.
It's tough competition, but this might be the single most offensive gag of the movie, largely because it has no bearing on the plot and seems to just be there to have a stab at outdated period stereotypes.
So what do we do now?
Whatever we want. What, do you want?
Thus begins the most famous scene in this movie, and even though it's just animated food, we probably can't show any of it. The orgy scene. I'm so glad I didn't watch this movie in 40X.
Hey, fellas, you thinking what I'm thinking?
So all the non-perishables decide they're going to get it on, but they already knew there was no great beyond, so why didn't they have sex already if they really wanted to?
Yeah, cracker!
I can't show you what happens to the crackers, but I can't believe the movie is still blaming them for actions that the people who run the grocery store made.
I love you, Brett.
Skip!
The world is a fucking illusion, bro. Our lives are being manipulated for the entertainment of monsters.
I'll admit, we all have the capacity to be monsters. It's the being entertained part I'm taking issue with. When does that start?
You, Frank, were the plaything of a demented, schlubby Jewish actor named Seth Rogen.
I don't think this movie has the balls to show us who played this Native American called Firewater, or the same guy who played the Mexican tequila bottle.
We're gonna go to this other dimension and cut the strings once and for all.
Yeah, but if you realize you're being puppeteered by these actors, why are you able to think for yourself in this moment to make this plan? Apparently, it took 5 talented people to come up with that Great Beyond song. And since I can't easily confirm which one of them wrote the Exterminate the Juice line, I'm just going to award a sin for each of them. Yep, I stuck around through the credits because I'm that kind of hero/masochist. You'll be glad to hear I managed to catch one last joke that was apparently worth bending the fabric of this world's credulity. Poor Darren has received an Employee of the Month certificate for not stealing much. There, the final unfunny nail in this orgy of effluence.
You and me, finally gonna be official.
Just, threw up in my mouth a little bit.
I've never opened up. I mean, look how tight I am.
If it's skinny, you should try feeding it carbs. Come at you? What does that mean?
Don't mess with the bull, young man. You'll get the horns.
I'm excited and I feel relaxed and I'm ready to party with the best of them.
I love you. It's like, why don't we say that every day? Why can't we say it more often?
I just love you. I just want to go to the rooftops and scream, I love my best friend Evan.
The whole book's gender biased. A woman's responsible for original sin. A woman cut Samson's quaff of power. A woman asks for the head of John the Baptist.
Get the butter!
Fuck you, hormones! You are a crazy bitch! Hormones! Go f your fucking bong!
This is like the apex of the vortex of joint engineering. It's rumored that M.M. O'Shaughnessy designed the first one, the guy who designed the Golden Gate Bridge. Of course. My second favorite civil engineer.
You intolerant piece of shit! Your booze mean nothing. I've seen what makes you cheer.
You don't need to understand. You just need to relax and open wide.
No! God, please, no! No! No!
This is going to be a very different kind of video.
Now, I know a lot of you right now are going, hey, look, another YouTube rant video, as if we don't have enough of those already. Yes, I acknowledge it. I know that it's easy for us to punch up at YouTube and to complain ad nauseum, but we do it because we have to keep them honest. We have to hold their toes to the fire as a platform in order for us as creators to survive. It is a very unforgiving website in a lot of ways, and there is so much collateral damage in the crossfire when it comes to copyright claims, takedowns, and of course, channel terminations. There's a shocking amount of times when these things happen to people who don't deserve it. I'm bringing up this topic because it happened to a channel for an artist, an animator named Teleport Day. I hope I'm saying your name correctly. Now, I know that there's a lot of channels out there that get done dirty, but this one, it's shocking how bad it got. For those who don't know, this person is an amazing animator who creates content at neck break speeds. It's remarkable. But this channel has been nuked from the platform because YouTube said it violated its nudity and sexual guidelines. Hey folks, real fast, a quick update. When I recorded the video initially, Teleporte's channel was still down. It is back now. And YouTube's Twitter account said, oh, it was a mistake. It's been resolved. It's been reinstated. Our bad. Which, you know, it's cool that a entire livelihood of a person can be deleted by accident. So take that for what it's worth. That being said, I still have a lot of thoughts in this video about other facets of YouTube and all of the folks who are casualties of YouTube's system and aren't reinstated, because there are a lot of folks who suffer that fate. So let's continue. YouTube has a very bizarre set of rules that they bring down on content creators. Rules that are not really applied to the big corporate channels of YouTube and, of course, advertisers. But if you are an independent creator like Teleport Day, then you might find yourself in the crossfire. YouTube claimed that this content was a violation of their rules. That, oh, hey, one strike too many, your channel is now gone. And this is a content creator with a very substantial following. It goes to show you that even the big channels of independent creators can still be the victim of YouTube BS, whether it be by a human review or by the algorithm, which is more common. You are taken down by them saying, oh, you broke a rule. And the frustrating thing being that a lot of this rule breaking is so unclear. I would know personally. I know I walk the line when it comes to reviewing adult animated content, but I have made it abundantly clear on my channel that it is not for children. I have literally clicked the button to claim that for all of my content. I like to talk about adult animation. I think it's a very fascinating facet of animation in general, but it is difficult because if YouTube says, oh, no thank you, get rid of it, you risk the chance of having your channel deleted, your livelihood erased. You have the chance, if you're lucky, on the lighter end of sentencing, which they are the judge, the jury, the executioner, of where they go, okay, your video violates this guideline, we have to age restrict it. And that sounds, okay, at least the video is up there. No, it's not really. Yes, it can be accessed, but the algorithm kills it. It's essentially blacklisted. Again, I know this because it happened to me 3 times this year. Whenever I upload, I'm like, God, please. I censored this. I blurred it all out. I want to make it interesting and not have to hide everything, but Lord knows I have to, again, hold my punches as far as showing this content. Because if I don't, YouTube might go, no. We're gonna blacklist the video, delete the video maybe, or on the extreme end, just delete your channel. And sometimes these violations come all at once. So it's an assault where YouTube goes, hey, by the way, this, and this video have all at the same time been found guilty, which, by the way, that's over 3 strikes, you're out, channel's gone. I do apologize for how unrefined my presentation is right now for this video. I'm working off of bullet points in my mind, and typically I'm a bit more scripted than this, but it's coming from the heart, from my frustrations. I've been on this website for so long. I've been here since 2007 watching stupid YouTube poops with Batman and Hotel Mario, and I've seen this website evolve into a force of nature on the mainstream level. Millennials and Zoomers, use this thing more than television. But the Wild West days of making content are quickly coming to an end in a very unfair, unfun way. I think the first big part that led me to believe that things were changing, where the bureaucracy was starting to really rear its ugly head, was when, and it's a double-edged sword, the ElsaGate issue. Up to that point, I think YouTube was still feeling it out with channels, with what could be a success on the platform, what they want to support, what's growing as a trend, and then also trying to not like catch the attention of like the FTC or the federal government of the US when it comes to copyright. I acknowledge that it's not a fun situation for YouTube. It really isn't. They haven't been profitable in basically their entire existence. Google takes the hit and they know it's worth it because they're investing in the future and it's just now starting to break even. So I don't envy the situation of trying to police content, to try and keep copyright lawyers from breathing down your neck. It sounds like a hell to me. But you still owe it to your content creators, especially the independent ones, to at least provide some level of security where they aren't just wiped out. And the only way to get any kind of justice is to beg for it on Twitter. I bring this sacrifice to the YouTube Twitter support that they might notice me, that I don't get an automated response, and they might reverse their decision with a human to verify if it's actually the right decision that was made initially. Teleporte is huge on Twitter, and the only way to get any kind of attention was, again, to beg to YouTube on Twitter, of all places. So I want you to think about all the other channels that don't get that justice, who are wiped out and then gone. That sucks. That absolutely sucks. So YouTube content creators are held to this very strict set of rules. And I believe those rules came because of the FTC situation with ElsaGate. The FTC is like, wait, hold on. What's this kid content nonsense going on with? Wow, this content's kind of bizarre. It's bad. What's Elsa doing with their feet? That's disgusting. Wait, hold on. Google, have you been stealing information from children? That's against the law. So when you all see how like on YouTube kid videos, you can no longer leave comments, you can no longer create a playlist, that's because the FTC brought the hammer down in a way on YouTube, and YouTube was quick to react and say, okay, we'll fix this. So when you create an upload nowadays, you have to declare like what's in your content. Oh, there's no violence. There's no sexual stuff at all. There's nothing that will rock the boat. It is vanilla as hell. That's what YouTube wants. They want non-problematic content. But as artists, where's the fun in that? I'm not saying all artists have to be that way, but like it completely neuters a lot of videos where it's like we're trying to say something, whether it be a review or it's an animation or anything at all, but it's like, nope, keep it neutral, keep it work safe, or you might get it removed. Or worse, you might have your channel deleted. Once more, I love talking about adult animation. That Ever Ready Hard-On review, something that was made in the late 1920s or whatever, YouTube said that was no good. How about that? A video that is over a century old almost, and YouTube nowadays we're like, ooh, that's a problem. Let's tone that down, even though I censor the heck out of it. For a channel that once more has been declared for not children. I know as a content creator on YouTube, you run the risk, okay? You are only as good as the numbers you can bring in. And that means if you worked your ass off to make a video over the last 3 months, and then you upload it, and then Viacom is like, it's been blocked. And you're like, what can I do to fix this, okay? Oh, nothing. Okay, I guess that last 3 months of me working has been wiped out and I have nothing to show for it. Or it gets age restricted, which, by the way, to let you all know, when a video is age restricted, it is once again blacklisted. It's removed from the algorithm because YouTube goes, oh, we can't monetize this? Take it out of the algorithm. It's taking a spot of a video that we can monetize. It's a revolving door where it's all about moving content through quickly so they can monetize it, move on to the next. Go, go, go. And if your video is not making them money, it's out. So it kills your money and it kills your views, and the video is basically a complete wash. Now, you've heard me rant so far. Again, I apologize for how just all over the place I am. I'm frustrated, okay? Because I've seen this website go from being a place where it was initially for creators, having fun, wild and crazy with Fred, remember Fred? Yeah. And now it feels a lot more regimented and policed because, again, I don't envy that YouTube has to deal with the FTC or copyright nonsense, but that's the price you pay for your level of success, all right? You have to deal with it. Don't wipe out content creators because you don't want to deal with it. And the worst part is this, folks, and I think this is the main thing that made me want to make this video, is the double standards of it all, where you have YouTube gleefully taking money from advertisers who, if you uploaded their content to YouTube, it would violate the community guidelines. A lot of these mobile game ads with the asses in your face and basically the lowest common denominator of sexual, like, oh, save the girl, touch her things, oh, brother, I'm stuck in the fence, with these comics and these mobile games and all. It's like, dude, what the heck? Why do they get the pass? Oh, that's right, they're paying you. So it's clearly a double standard. It's infuriating. Oh, you pay us, do whatever you got, all right? If you want to promote your sex toys, literal sex toys on YouTube videos, go for it. But if you upload a review of a sex toy, God have mercy on your soul. And then to also talk about how the double standards of the big YouTube channels, the ones run by corporations, music labels, they get huge exemptions to the rule. I have nothing against the actual artists who do music videos or songs and like WAP. That's fine, all right? WAP can WAP it up for all I care. I have nothing against them as musicians, but the double standards of YouTube saying, I'll monetize it, it's fine, go for it. It's a music video, therefore it's art, and it's exempted from the rules. And it's like, well, what about me? I have content that I am presenting as art. Why is it glossed over while this content gets greenlit and can move with impunity? I don't know. Oh yeah, I do know. Money. And I know that a lot of you all are probably yelling that in the comments right now. Yeah, it's money. It really is. It's the great decider of it all. The mobile game ads that are borderline pornography, they get a pass. Why? Because they pay YouTube. The big record labels, they get a pass. Why? They're a huge draw, AKA money for YouTube. The small creator, the ones who made this website what it is initially, the ones who've been there since the very beginning, they're the ones who are paying the price. They're the ones the rules are being held against. They're the ones where the algorithm indiscriminately removes their content or their channel. And folks like Teleporte, yeah, they're the victims. And the ultimate insult in all of that is that YouTube, their little shorts program where they're trying to be TikTok 2.0, if it's anything like Google Plus, it's gonna fail. That shorts program is riddled with re-uploads of Teleporte's content. Not credited, just straight up stealing content. And not just the YouTube shorts, but also on YouTube itself with videos in the usual aspect ratio and presentation. Just so much content stealing, and YouTube does nothing for those channels. They leave it alone. But the person who created the content, they get taken down. Where's the justice? I apologize again for the overall energy of this video. I don't want to make this a normal thing where I'm complaining on YouTube. That's not what my channel's about. I want to talk about the girl version of Family Guy that Hulu made. I want to talk about this weird Jehovah's Witness cartoon. I want to talk about Total Drama Island. I want to talk about furry girls. Yeah, let's do it. I want to have fun, and I abide by the rules of YouTube, but I live in constant fear that even if I do, a lot of these content creators do, it's still not enough. And a random algorithm or an unfair review from one of the human associates of YouTube that they say, oh, it's not good enough. You broke a rule. You violated this. And then without any chance of really appealing it effectively, you're gone. Your video, your hard work, your livelihood, gone. And that's a very cutthroat system. And I think it needs addressing. I really do. It's only going to get worse. It really is. But I guess, hey, maybe I need to start doing high-level productions like these music labels or upload mobile game ads, and then I can do whatever I want. But until that day, I have to live in fear for my content, and I'm quite certain the rest of independent creators on YouTube have to do the same. And that's not fair. That's not fair to them. These rules are way too hostile and also restrict the art that we can make as creators. It, in a way, pressures us to keep things clean if you want any chance to actually reap any benefits from your work, whether it be growing your support with your viewers or making money to pay rent. So that's my YouTube rant. I apologize for how all over the place it was. Again, this won't be a common thing. I just wanted to speak up because it's not fair to Teleport Day. It's not fair to other content creators out there to have their content stolen and then have their channels taken down. YouTube, fix this now.
This video is brought to you by Warby Parker. See how easy that is? Just a logo and a quick shout out. That's it. I don't have to clickbait you all with fake promises and bosoms and stolen assets. I don't have to sink that low. YouTube does. I'm sick of it. Ah! Mobile game ads are a plague upon the internet. And with every passing day, it gets worse. It gets so much worse. They're everywhere. YouTube, Facebook, Google, Twitter, in your videos, in your newsfeed, on the sidebars of every website you visit. They're misleading, deceptive, pandering. You can't trust any of them. What you think might be a cool game with hot girls and fun gameplay is, oh, God, no! Another Candy Crush clone! Where are the hot girls? You promised me hot girls! This isn't an FPS at all! Oh, can I solve this puzzle? Sure, let me try. Oh, this game is nothing like the advertisement! I've been bamboozled! Again! The majority of these mobile game ads rely on fraudulent claims that depend more on shocking and slimy promises than actual quality when it comes to their product. They don't care if most people turn the game off after trying their free-to-play game. As long as these mobile games can get their hooks into a handful of targeted users and squeeze them with microtransactions, they'll get their money's worth, and then some. Like, to a mind-blowing degree. The mobile game industry practically dwarfs every other facet of the gaming industry when it comes to revenue. Consoles? They wish. PC gaming? Oh, not even close. Allow me to put it into perspective for you. Endgame, one of the highest grossing films of all time, made around $2.7 billion worldwide when it comes to box office revenue. Monster Strike, a mobile game, has grossed nearly $8.7 billion worldwide. That is 3 times the amount of Endgame. That is insane. So now we're stuck in a very precarious situation. Low-quality mobile games that cost virtually nothing to make, that utilize predatory tactics in order to track down consumers with addiction problems, and then get them hooked on microtransactions by promoting deceptive and manipulative advertisements with false promises. So that's the situation. Awful games that cost a fraction of what console or PC games require, while instead funneling money towards marketing in a very misleading manner. The entire system is corrupt, and so many websites are complicit in the process, especially YouTube. The audacity of YouTube to police the videos of content creators and fire off punishments blindly while claiming that actual human beings have reviewed said content. Oh, yeah, sure they have. Look at this one. Oh, this